Thought I was going to forget it. I didn't forget it.
Didn't forget it. What an important song.
Dude.
See you guys in the chat. Ratchet. Holy shit, we're back. It's been 2 weeks, fuckers. But in podcast time, I'm pretty sure that's 7 years. My lobotomy and Chris's sex change surgery went well. They were both a success. So bear with us as his SSRIs and my frontal lobe pulses may slow us down. But it's freaking awesome to see you guys back in the live chat. Of course, we know that you guys are going to come out here and hang out with us tonight. So we appreciate those of you who left comments and asked us what the fuck was going on, where we were. Some of you guys sent messages, but don't worry, we're not giving up on you. We just had to take care of some personal stuff. But it is officially Check Fire Wednesday. I know you guys missed us. Wipe your joyful tears away. Grab a spot in the live chat. I should also say that if you didn't know, today is a red letter date in history.
Hey.
It is the 70th anniversary of the day that Dr. Emmett Brown invented time travel after he slipped while hanging a clock in his bathroom. He hit his head on the toilet and invented the flux capacitor,
which is what
November
makes
5th,
time travel possible.
That's what I'm saying. 1.21 gigawatts.
Hey.
70 years today. So that's pretty cool, right? And if you're new here, welcome in. I promise you're not wasting your time. So smash that follow button, give the video a like, and if you're feeling generous, hit that repost because it really helps us out here on Rumble. We are I Came With Fire podcast. I'm your host, Brandon. I'm a veteran father and husband, and we're here to be your bridge in the divide, your source for objective truth and educated opinion. This is a 360-degree two-way range, so if you walk on, be prepared to take some frag. Chris and I are going to say whatever the fuck we actually think. So don your helmets and flak jackets. The range is now hot, and we are going on show 3, actually, since Chris's sex change and my lobotomy. So if you guys didn't notice by now, everything should be fine. Just want to say. Yeah.
The changes come slowly, but then all at once.
It's time for your govern me harder daddy disclaimer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I can't forget that. What's up, guys? My name is Chris. I'm a Green Beret medic, a husband, and a father, and I am still legally required to do this humiliation ritual for you every single show. So without further ado, roads, where I'm going, Brandon, we don't need any roads.
There are no roads.
Yep, any and all opinions that you hear here on this channel belong completely to the hosts and the guests. They do not represent the United States Army, the Department of War, or any other entity within the United States government. We have been disclaimed, bitches. Let's do the thing.
Gotcha, bitch.
Well, thank you for the rundown. We got to do a real quick shout out to our sponsors, obviously, which you can find in the show notes. We've got Kill Cliff, honestly one of the best clean energy, hydration, and CBD recovery drinks on the market. I really like their Orange Crush CBD. It tastes delicious. I can drink them over and over and over again. If you've ever watched the Las Vegas shooting episode that I did with Aaron Love, you'll see that him and I crushed like 3 of those on that show.
You guys are feeling good.
Yeah, well, CBD doesn't give you that effect, but we were feeling good in other ways. We were hydrated. You know what I mean? But one of the best things I've ever had in my mouth, just saying, don't ask me any questions about what I mean by that. But we've also got some badass merch, which will be the best thing you put on your body. You can head over to redpillthreads.com/I Came With Fire. There it is. It's been 2 weeks. Still no update to the merch. Time to check with the homie.
The merch guy. Hey, by the way, we do need to get these in just normal tees. Like that should be a thing for sure. Yeah.
That's a good point.
But anyway, there they be. Brutal American.
Yeah, a lot of you guys have already checked them out. Absolutely. Thank you for your attention to this matter. New Bull Moose party. A real America First party. Just saying. But you can head over to redpillthreads.com/I Came With Fire. Get some of that stuff. It's pretty awesome. I've mailed some free ones out recently to some people. So if you haven't gotten one yet, let me know. So let's kick this off, man. You ready to do this?
Absolutely. Let's head straight down into the rabbit hole.
Let's do it, man. Hey, first things, I just want to say congrats over to Jared Isaacman, Trump's selection to lead NASA. The dude was the first commercial spacewalker, which is pretty fucking dope. And if you follow us over on X, you'll see my breakdown of why he could be this generation's next William Knudsen. And if you're unfamiliar with who William Knudsen, and he was the man that FDR appointed to build America's warfighting industrial base during World War II, you can learn a lot about it in Freedom's Forge, really, really good book. But so when I say Isaacman could be the generation of Knudsen, I mean he's got that innovative spirit and intelligence to do the same thing with America's space program and anything involved with defense and space, which is obviously an area now that's being weaponized. So hats off to him. Congratulations to Jared. Incredible stuff. Check him out. Absolutely see what he's all about. It's pretty dope. Really looking forward to what he does with the Artemis program. And yeah, hope we can get him on the show one day. But I saw kind of near the end of the day that Marjorie Taylor Greene is supposedly expressed interest in running for president. I want to know what you think about that, because that's an interesting one. Just saying.
Well, I think that if she does become the president, they'll immediately have to give her the keys to the Jewish space lasers. So I'm not sure if I want all of that power held in one dainty hand. Yeah, blonde hand, as it were.
Thank you, Till Death Podcast, for rating the stream. That's fucking badass.
Really appreciate that. I'm just going to stop trying to make jokes about it and just be a little bit serious. There are people that make good lawmakers, and it's even debatable whether or not she does that. Do I think that she has the ability to be the chief executive of the United States? Absolutely not. And it would be, I think it would be political suicide for her to toss her hat into that ring. So that's just personal opinion.
Typically, senators, congressmen, things like that, they don't do well when they run for president. Right. Just like why I don't see a lot of value in when people push JD Vance as presidential either, because it was like 18 vice presidents have run for president, and only 4 of them have won, which is like, I don't know, what is that? Like a 15%
and there's only one shit like that. There's only been one that has won without having to go through a Republican primary, and that was Papa Bush. Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, you know my opinion on this, man. I've said it before, but I'll go ahead and restate it here since we're already drawn in on midterms time, which is insane. But that is whoever picks up the Republican primary, first of all, I'm all for primaries. I think that the harder the primary, the better the system for the voters, because that means that we really got to slug it out during primary season and the voters get the choice that they picked. I think that harsh primaries are
Kamala Harris.
There you go. I think harsh primaries are good things. And I hope that we do have a harsh primary, and I hope that President Trump stays out of the primary. I hope he does. He won't. I'm prepared to be disappointed on this, but I think that for the health of the America First movement, I think that him staying out of the primary would be the best thing for it. I really do. But
you know what would be great for it? If he would start talking about going after State Street, BlackRock, and Vanguard, and then buying up homes and then forcing people to rent them only and solve problems and had a plan for that. That's what I would really like to hear. I like a lot of the other things he's doing, but I'll tell you right now, man, like
who's that, Trump?
Americans are not interested in foreign policy at all right now. And there needs to be way more of a domestic focus and stuff like that, dude, going after these big,
I agree.
Trust busting the old Teddy Roosevelt way on these, like I said, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock. That's what needs to fucking happen. And if he wants to start, getting some of this confidence back from people, he'll start handling business in those arenas.
Well, I do think that he is paying attention to what is coming out of the election that we just saw in New York City. I did see this from Leading Report on Twitter, and this happened just before we came on, so I had to pull it up to make sure I read it right. But breaking: Trump to focus on affordability next year, White House advisor tells Politico. I think that's a good sign of like him recognizing the bellwether, recognizing this, because here's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, but I like balls and strikes here, man. There is a cohort of people that voted for Trump and then turn around and voted for Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah.
So
Well,
make it make sense. It's
kind of the
it's the
point I'm getting
populism
at.
movement. Yeah.
People, exactly. That's the focus right now. People are sick and tired of hearing about American foreign policy. It's so tied to everything that is the identity of the United States and has been for over the past 20 years at least, right?
Yeah.
You know, since I've been sentient and paying attention as an adult, right? I'm
Right.
just saying, you know, but going after those groups, like I said, that's just one example that you can go after and start preserving like the only way the American middle class anymore has the opportunity to move up in life is by storing equity in a home and having a mortgage, being able to pay that off or take that equity out of there for the property value or hand it off to a son or a daughter or whatever, right? All of these private equity
All those
firms are
things
going
that Joy
after this
Reid
stuff.
absolutely hates.
All those things Joy Reid absolutely hates, right? Including having a brain. I don't even know if she has one, to be honest, but that would be what he would need to go after. So, but
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, man, it'd be interesting to see Marjorie Taylor Greene run. Historically, the success of Congress people is not that good, just like vice presidents, but it is what it is, man.
You know what I think when I see him do that? Like, this is the political grift machine. It's kind of like Stacey Abrams. Like, she has made an entire career out of being a failed gubernatorial candidate, and she keeps coming back for it every single time, right? Because she knows that if there's the political grift and they can raise all types of money during the campaign season, and then they have all the staffers that jump on board, and they're basically, you know, the temporary field workers in the farm world. Like, this is what political staffers are to campaign season. They all dive in, they soak up all of the political donations, and then when campaign season's over, they either go to work for the person they campaigned for, or they jump off and they go start strategizing for the next one. It is a dirty, nasty money laundering business. And when I see somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who she knows for a fact that there is absolutely no appetite for her, for anybody, even over to the center. Like, she's polarizing.
I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
I think that there's a hefty amount of people who were initially ready for a JD Vance ticket who would rather see Marjorie Taylor Greene now. Absolutely.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll because have to talk to that person.
Well, I mean, let's think about the biggest campaign promise that President Trump made that he did not follow through on and, in fact, backed away from is the Epstein files. List? She's the only one from that group that is sticking to it and holding him to the fire. And she sat there and she'll say, I love President Trump. I support him. All these other things. Here's the great things he's doing. This is really going to paint the future. And she makes that point. And, of course, you know, JD Vance is in the position where if he is contrarian to what the president is doing, it's not a good thing. Yeah. So this is what people hear. This is how people react to this sort of thing. So yeah, I think that is where some of that base has been lost and has shifted over to an MTG sort of support.
That's interesting. I hadn't considered her stance on that one issue. Honestly, I haven't thought about it for a few weeks.
She hasn't let it go at all, and she's something she talks about.
You're making
all
a
the
really
time,
good point.
So. Yeah, but hey, man, let's talk about. You just brought up Mamdani, so we got to talk about it. Obviously, every other channel is, but we're going to talk about it because we're not just some little teeny rinky-dink run-of-the-mill channel, right?
I didn't even give the breakdown of the show tonight. We just rolled straight into the conversation.
It's been 2 weeks, dude. It's been 2 weeks, right? It's going to be a rough one. Maybe we'll see. You guys in the chat all know. What's up, Homesteader Nick? Said it's his first time on the show. Appreciate you checking us out. So. Yeah, man. Like I said, I feel pretty remiss to not discuss the Zoran mom and daddy mayoral win in New York City. So I'm going to kick this off here with a video he posted this morning. This is Zoran Free Shit Mamdami's ask from New Yorkers day one post-election. This is a good one. It's very Sesame Street in a way if you're retarded and like Muppets. So here we go.
Good morning, New York City, and thank you. Last night we made history. And today, we begin the work of making a new administration. Welcome to the transition. This is the period over the next few months where we build a city hall that delivers on the promises of our campaign, to make New York City affordable and to make government accountable to the people it serves. As we prepare to govern, we'll start announcing the leaders who will help implement our agenda. People like deputy mayors who oversee entire areas of government, and the commissioners who carry out the critical work of city agencies. These appointments will be driven by excellence, integrity, and a hunger to solve old problems with new solutions. Talking to organizers on the front lines of the fight to improve our city, government veterans with proven track records, policy experts from around the country and the world, and working people who know better than anyone what our neighborhoods deserve. And this will be a period, like the campaign we ran and the city hall to come, defined by transparency. Because New Yorkers deserve a government they can trust. On January 1st, I will be your mayor. New Year's Day, and a new era for this city. Oh, and one more thing. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. This transition requires staff, research, and an infrastructure that can meet this moment. And it will be made possible by the people who built and believe in this movement. So I hope you'll make a donation at transition2025.com. Now let's get to work.
Then make that shit up.
Just, you know what? There's no easy way to say this. Send me your fucking money.
If you would have sent that to me and you were like, "Hey, this is an AI right-wing deep fake," I would have believed you. But the fact that it's real,
that's because it's that fucking dumb, dude.
It's that on the nose, dude.
Well, so he says, let's build a new administration, right? Buddy is dead serious. First off, I want to make that clear about installing a socialist government in New York City. That's what he wants. Make no matter about it, right? He's shared things on X, literally quoting the Communist Manifesto, right? He has the words he shared after the whole October 7th thing were about the globalizing the Intifada.
Mm-hmm.
He shared a lot of other things.
Quite fond of that.
He's quite fond of that, right? So these are the things that he's talked about, even though the media has done a really good job at trying to spin him as not being a communist. But you know what else he's going to have access to is the New York Police Department's terrorism database. So hopefully they wise up and they shift some of that stuff. Maybe they change the classification on it. And the Fusion Center there in New York City, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, is smart enough to push all that stuff out to the federal level where he won't have access to it. So hopefully something like that happens. But you guys will probably remember seeing Zoran smiling and standing next to Siraj Wahaj, which is not a fake name, but he's an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, which happened in New York City, right? But back in May, Zoran also tweeted out that we need to ban all guns. So this is somebody who obviously cares a lot about your safety and your rights and what it means to actually be an American. And then I saw today, too, that the New York Fire Department Commissioner Robert Tucker resigned and said he will stop being the commissioner on the 19th of December because he wants some time to basically find a replacement. But someone on the commissioner's team said, and this is a quote, "We felt we wouldn't mesh well with Mamdani, a Democrat socialist, and his team." Well, no shit, because if there's anybody that remembers what happens when you put a Muslim socialist in charge of anything, you wind up with a couple of airplanes and then a couple of towers hitting the ground, and the New York Fire Department would certainly remember that. So.
Yeah. Well, you do know that there's a pretty high correlation between the amount of bacon you eat and you spontaneously exploding, right?
I didn't know that, but you know what's actually true as well is that Islamists and socialism has a lot in common as well. Mm-hmm. These guys use a lot of the same tactics. Communism talks a lot about infiltrating and lying about who you are. Taqiyya is a Muslim tactic that they use to do that. It is an all-pervasive orthodoxy. Both of those things have ins and out groups that if you are on the out group, they're violent against. The idea of collectivist thought and oppressor and oppressed and friend and enemy both exist within the religion of Islam and obviously Marxism in general. So there's a lot of overlaps, you know. But I hope that more public servants honestly decide not to work with this dude, whether that be from the New York Police Department, the Fire Department, or the Port Authority, or whatever. I really don't get why so many fucking people seem to think that this is going to be fun for them, or that somehow he's going to solve a single problem New York is facing. But if you go to the end of that video, I'm not going to walk past talking about, other than making fun of this retard, about his asking for money. Excuse me.
First thing he does.
First, literally, right? He waited to the end of the video to hit you up, bro. He's like your friend that's like comes over. He say, "Hey man, how you doing?" He shoots the shit with you, and then that like awkward small talk ends, and then they're like, "Hey man, you know, could you spot me 20?"
Right.
Yeah.
That dude that you haven't talked to in months.
Right. Oh, you get that random text message from that dude, right? Who the fuck is this guy? Oh, there it is.
Yep.
I need gas money. Can you Apple Pay me $40? That's exactly what it is. But nothing says free shit, obviously, like asking for somebody else's money. And, I thought that, like I said, right, he's standing there on that roof which was what looked like project housing behind him to me.
That's
I've
what
never
I
been
was
to New York
saying.
City.
And
Yeah.
every single, like, they just jump cut with just like, we got to get him from a different angle on this shitty roof. Oh,
Well,
let's have you sit over here.
it like
All right.
reminds me of a 90s Mobb Deep rap music video, you know, like it's
Yes.
just like East Coast rap. He's just up there, you know, the steam is coming out of the building like stuff. But I don't know, man. Honestly, I thought the private citizen was the person hurting the most in his little narrative going on over there. And this is why these fucking clowns in New York City elected him to begin with. But I think that there's no bigger condemnation of his attempt at distancing himself from the bourgeoisie that he's supposedly fighting against than asking the proletariat for money, to use the language that he's familiar with. Never
Right.
mind the fact that he got $37 million from Alex Soros, who obviously is George Soros' son. But these fucking idiots like
Thought we
not
wouldn't
see
notice.
that this is exactly why like socialism never works. He's in good company too, honestly. If you go back and look, I always bring the historical receipts. Lenin did the same fucking thing in 1917 during the Bolshevik Revolution. He asked for money from his sympathizers to sustain the Bolshevik Party revolution and the propaganda machine that they had going on back in the day. And we're going to get into some of the propaganda later. We're going to talk about, I think, the next video and the useful idiots that were out on the street in New York City. But just for other reference, right? Castro did this. Chavez did this in Venezuela. Maduro did this. Mao Zedong did this in China during the Cultural Revolution, asking citizens to donate wealth and framed it as moral duty or a moral obligation if you go read Mao Zedong's thoughts. But which is exactly what his supporters are saying now, right? They're calling this your like moral obligation to the city of New York is to help him by giving your money. And this is that all pervasive orthodoxy that I was talking about before is coming to work here or coming into play, right? It's not a religious morality. It is a social morality, and it's establishing an in and out group. It's what you would call a moral inversion of collectivist ideology. And you know, whether he knows it or not, and I have a feeling he does know it, but Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci, who was the founder of the Communist Party of Italy, wrote a book called Prison Notebooks. Now, ask me why a communist would need to write a book called Prison Notebooks.
I think because he probably spent a lot of time in prison, did he?
He said, every revolution has been preceded by intense labor of criticism, by the diffusion of culture and the spread of ideas, and by the creation of new moral habits. That's what this is a new moral habit. You know what I also call it? A collectivist Marxist round of bullshit. Personally. But I think it's funny that CNN was trying to make him seem like he wasn't a communist. Obviously, never mind, he operates like one. He said, each to their end, right? Each to their ability, which is a line from the Communist Manifesto. He speaks like one. He quotes Marx. He quotes Marcuse, all of these people who are of the communist thought philosophy. So, but we got a couple of videos out here for the kids in the live chat. What's up, kids in the live chat? Drop us a line. Let us know how you're enjoying the show. Smash that follow button if you haven't already. I promise you're not wasting your time here. As you can see, laying this out chapter and verse. That's right, dude. Dunk it. You want to mushroom smack it? I don't care. You do your thing. But yeah, anyway, before we jump over to this next video, just want to kick it over to you real fast in case you've got other thoughts on this whole shebang.
No, not really. I think you summed it up pretty good. It's worth going back to. It just being like, I'm going to do all this stuff for you. Remember how I told you how to stop sending me money? Don't do that. Keep sending me money.
You can start sending me money again. Listen, they don't say communism only works until you run out of other people's money. So we can't let that happen. Yeah, now that 100%. I've won, I need you to keep funding this nonsense.
Well, and it's such a parody of reality too. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I don't understand. I've been in arguments with socialist sympathizers all day on Instagram for a video that I launched where I basically said that New Yorkers were, you guys fucked around and now you're getting ready to find out. And I was like, as history will tell you, you can vote yourself into socialism, which you're actively doing, but you will not be able to vote yourself out of it. That's not how that works, right? Yeah. So anyway, everybody getting mad at me, like all the lines that you've ever heard. Listen, true socialism hasn't been tried. It's like, or the other, it's like, hey, don't you want your tax money? Because we already live in a semi-socialist society. No, we don't. Don't you want your tax dollars to go to bettering your fellow man and not just to supporting, corrupt elite political class people? To which I asked the person, like, do you even know what socialism is? Obviously not. So, but anyway, it's just like I've been going round and round about it all day, and honestly, my brain's kind of numb already with arguing with the retards. So,
Yeah. Well, they don't have a problem with a billionaire's money if it's Alex Soros and the Open
Right.
Society Foundation.
Of
They don't have
course.
a problem with that, right? And let's be real, okay? His stated goal, is to seize the means of production, which is obviously directly from the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, word for
And word for word. And I want to know, right, if he's successful. Let's just like historical reference this further, okay? You will remember Iran has not always been a Muslim caliphate and a terrible theocratic country. But in 1979, the leftist group, the leftist militants that were running that country, they teamed up with the Ayatollah at the time, and they had a coup and a big fight. And the day after the Ayatollah declared victory, what did they do? They went and killed all the leftists. And that, man, that could be very well what Zohran Mamdani has every plan on doing. Is, again, this is what happens. These guys team up with whoever is going to basically vehicle them on in. And then at the end of the day, they are not true believers. They get the
well,
that's why
I was saying when we got to go on Drinking Bros podcast, I was like, I really don't understand why the neo-Marxists are climbing into bed with the Islamists, because they're very dumb. Because eventually,
they think a lot alike.
You talked about the overlap earlier, absolutely. But at the end of the day, one of those movements is going to come out on top, and either all the Marxists are going to, round up any religious group. Marxists don't put up with any religious group, and they're going to throw them all into jail, or the Islamists are going to, kill everybody that's not an Islamist. So
to a Marxist, God is revisionist history.
Let's
put it that way. Yeah.
So interesting bedfellows. Can't last forever.
Well, it won't last forever. They're interesting because people, I guess, wouldn't think that a religion like Islam would have a relationship with Marxism, but they are one and the same when you go and you break them down that way. So this next video is probably going to make you laugh. This is clearly a member of the American Communist Party who's handing out communist propaganda on the street. May as well be Pravda, even though that's not what it's called anymore. But he's being interviewed here about grocery stores. Let's check it out.
The grocery store capitalists, which have quite a powerful lobby, right? One of the grocery store bosses, he said of Gristides, right? He said that he was going to pull out of New York City if Zoran won, right? We would say, sure, pull out, and we will take over your grocery stores, right? And we will use them for cheaper groceries, and we will take over the entire food industry, because that's something that can be done if the working class is organized.
If real communism, that's crazy how clueless
I
these
think
people
this
are.
guy actually thinks that all of the employees are just going to walk out of the grocery store and then just like, you know what I mean? And they can just walk in and put their aprons on, and the trucks are going to show up again tomorrow. And they're like, we can unload the food from the trucks and stock it on the store, on the shelves. I think that he honestly thinks that that's how it works.
No, they believe it. They do believe it.
Right? Because there are videos out there where you're talking to these young people that want communism so bad because they want the free food, they want the free healthcare, and it's just free shit. That's really all they want. And they want free living and free buses and all this stuff. And you ask them, you're like, okay, but where does the food come from? And there's like real videos, man, on the street where they'll look you in the eye, dead ass, and they'll be like, the grocery store. And you're like, no. Before that, did you know that the grocers have to like make contracts with the growers and the suppliers and the logistics company? And then the other thing too
is
like
farmer how the Soviet Union was.
Yeah, and then if you actually even try to, then you can't argue. I say this all the time. You can't argue with them. They're half-wits, right? Thank you, Tolkien. Great line, right? But seriously, you can't even get to the point where you argue, hey man, grocery stores only make like a 2 to maybe 3% margin because it's so slim, because their entire business model is based on a never ending train of logistics that doesn't stop. I actually have some problems with the grocery store myself. Like the way that they put sell by dates on food, right? Where it's like everybody knows that the sell by date on milk is like if it goes a day over, it doesn't immediately spoil. It's because they have to move it off the shelf to keep the logistics coming in, right? So I'm not going to say any system's perfect, but what I'm getting at through all of this, and sorry for jumping on your video here real quick, is that you can't even get to the point where you argue the nuts and bolts with them because they're still stuck on like we were saying earlier, where does the food come from? The grocery store.
Well,
oh my God.
These are the people that are, when you tell them that the ground beef in the grocery store is from a cow that gets butchered, right? They're like surprised. Yeah. And then the other part of this is like, how do you intend on seizing the means of production if you can't even define the means of production? Like, how are you going to figure this out for your own when you can't? Like, you have no idea everything that goes in place here. So, like, I was going to ask you, like, seriously, like, do they really think that taking over a grocery store just means that everything in that grocery store is going to be there when homeboy decides to leave, as if he's just, like, leaving his house with all the shit in it? That's not how this works.
Right? I love how we were just like, evident. Our brains were touching on that point.
Exactly. Well, that's how naive he sounds, though.
I know.
Right? He's like, yeah, go ahead and leave. I'll just go in, and before everybody else comes in, I'm gonna eat a couple of ho-hos for free. It's just like, that's the way he's thinking. But listen, dude, the labor, the logistics, the utilities, all that stuff. If somebody were to abandon a grocery store, they're gonna clean that bitch out. Everything is gonna get turned off. Like, how do you expect to have all that happen? And I do think, or hope rather, honestly, that Mamdani just got elected king, and now it means everyone is going to do what he says to install his socialist policies, and that's what they better hope happens, even though it's not what's going to happen.
Dude, that's such a good point that you just made. I was talking with my wife about it earlier today, and I was like, I know this seems like a no shit Sherlock binary, but either Mamdani is going to get everything he wants, right? Which there's kind of two trees to doing that. Either he's going to just violate the law, because there's still systems and laws in place, even in New York City, that a lot of the things that
deal with the city council too.
Yeah, that he promised, he can't just wave a wand and do. He can't just with the stroke of a pen just do it as the executive. But either he's going to get everything he wants through like illegal means, and then the city implodes because, as you know, like I said earlier on Instagram, checks notes for one place where socialism has failed. Oh yeah, every single time ever, right? So it will fail when implemented. We know that as a historical fact. Or he's not going to be able to implement what he's promised, either because, like you said, city council stands in the way, or the system obstructs him, or whatever, or he's a grifter. And he's just going to go, oh, I tried, I can't do it. And he's going to walk away with all the money that he's asking people for. Either way, the people of New York are not going to be happy. It's either they're not going to be happy because they didn't get what they wanted for whatever reason, or they're not going to be happy because they get what they want and the city's going to implode and turn into a shithole. So it's like...
No, I mean...
Either way, I don't see his political future moving too much further because of things like that, at least not beyond like the mayoral level.
There's two other things. Well, here, and that's kind of a good segue into what I was about to say, right? So when you look at what he is and the people that have endorsed him, and the comment that we got on Instagram earlier today really made me think about this. There are several Democrats that endorse him. And I'm actually going to address a comment real quick in the chat. Animal08 says, rural California is red. You're right. I live in rural California, but not every bit of food that comes out of California exists in rural California, where it's mostly red. Just saying. I do live here in rural California. Unfortunately, it's not as red as one would hope. But anyway, Bernie Sanders, right, who is an independent, endorsed him. And last night he came out and essentially implied that Zoran Mamdani is the new face of the Democrat Party, which is funny because Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat, even though he did run on a Democrat ticket. Nobody else has any good fucking ideas or any ideas at all. So that leaves room for bad ideas. So the Democrats are going to have to compete with this. Right. And they're going to have to come to grips with the fact that this does now represent their party. And Zoran is that face. And the other person who endorsed him as well is Kathy Hochul, who's the governor of New York, who endorsed him and who just so happens to be a Democrat, right? So what they're doing is saying essentially now Democrat is now synonymous with socialism. That's what
Yeah.
they got to do. They have to
Hmm.
they have to confront that essentially, but they're not going to, which is why Chris and I sit here and confront the fringe ideas on the right all the time. But the other thing with this too is I'm so sick of hearing, well, the old system isn't working, so let's try something new, which is retarded because socialism is not new. And again, I feel like historians yell into the wind all the fucking time. This
Yeah.
is the same fucking thing that happened again, right? With Lenin. Factory workers, managers, merchants, business owners all fled Russia after 1917. And the Bolsheviks said, don't worry, we'll fill all of these voids with socialized management and workers' communities and state planners and loyalists, and we'll rejuvenate the system. And it never fucking happened.
Yeah.
And all these people leaving, right, New York right now, and people that were leaving California and still leave California, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for these people because they'll say, well, look, see, the capitalists are fleeing because they were the corrupt ones, and now we're ushering in the new revolution, and they know they're going to be held accountable. So when
Right.
they leave, which, because everything that socialists believe in is a bad fucking idea, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this sort of same rhetoric was around during the Bolshevik Revolution.
Yep.
But guess what? Millions of people starved. The means of production were not seized for the workers. They wound up dying. And is that extreme reality going to happen in New York City? Are a bunch of people, millions of people going to die? No, I don't think so. But there will be serious issues with businesses. There will be
Right.
serious issues with affordability. Because he even said the other day, he fucking says, whether you call it abolishing private property or equitable housing, right? Okay, well, so what you're saying is let's not use the word and phrasing that's actually in the Communist Manifesto. Let's use my phrasing is what he's
Yeah.
doing right there. But
Conflation of
crime,
terms.
yep, crime, logistics, all of this shit is going to be a fucking problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there was so much stuff that you hit on there, like as you're going through that. But going back to the one thing you said about what was it? You were talking about like revisionist, and they're gonna pick up and move. And we hit on this all the time, like the lack of a thing becoming evidence for a thing, which we're gonna get into it a little bit. What's up, Buckeye? Always good to see you a little bit later. But it's the same way with like the censorship argument, right? And I'm sure this will come up again, but it's this idea that censorship in and of itself becomes the validating evidence that the thing that you're saying is true, right?
Yep,
it's the same
exactly.
fallacy, like whatever you apply it to, you know what I mean? But yeah, all good points, dude.
No, yeah, well, that's it, man. The next one is a famous dog electrocutor. It's a Hassan Piker. Did you guys see that video of him electrocuting his dog on a live stream?
I heard about it. I didn't go back and watch it, but I thought it was funny how
Yeah,
his audience crucified him over it.
Well, yeah, it's an electric mat. It's pretty wild. But anyway, Hassan Piker
No
minces no
weirdo.
words. He actually identifies as a communist. But
Yes.
this video is a video at an after party celebrating, obviously, Imam Dami's win last night. So we're going to check it out.
Done.
What do you think it means that this guy ran as a socialist and anti-communism didn't work to stop him? That's big.
Yeah, I think we are in the heart of the imperial core. This is the country that defeated the USSR, unfortunately. And the reality of the matter is, there's a lot of antagonism. There's no class consciousness in the United States of America. It's one of the things that I try to address every day with my commentary. And I will say this. The conditions have deteriorated so much that everyday Americans, in spite of their lack of class consciousness, are finally arriving at the conclusion that perhaps there is an alternative out there. There is an alternative that focuses on them as opposed to the interests of the billionaires and the millionaires, as opposed to the interests of the capital owners. And I mean, you can't help but notice that. You can't help but feel at least a little bit of excitement around that.
And also the significance.
Way,
wanna laugh at
the
these
skips in
people.
that audio, that was all on their side, guys. So don't get mad at us. That was his audio, not our audio.
Because they're old CDs is what it is going on back there.
CDs
But,
nuts.
she was a little too excited, honestly, about the whole anti-communism didn't work to stop him thing. I feel like a woman like that has no idea what the fuck she's talking about if she's that excited. But Hassan says they're in the heart of the imperial core, which I think it's wild, the irony that's lost on an idiot like him and the people that are listening to him. I really think they believe the revolution will be parties like this with booze and chicks and music and all this other shit. That's like how they envision this this revolution, I suppose. This is like an old meme I saw one time where they were asking people in a communist Reddit thread about what they saw themselves doing during the new red army or the new communist revolution, and you got people talking about reading poetry and sewing uniforms as if it's some sort of utopia. But the point here, right, obviously listening to Hassan talk about class consciousness in the US, these are Marxist terms, right? Every single person who has been a purveyor of Marxism or communism, whatever you want to call it, so Marx, Engels, Lenin, Gramsci, Mao, etc., class consciousness is a trope throughout this entire ideology. And if Mamdani isn't a communist or isn't a socialist, right? Which, and if I can real quick, one of my favorite history professors described the difference between socialism and communism in a pretty funny way. He said that socialism always leads to communism, and the difference is communism is socialism, but with guns. And I've never forgot that. And that's one of the best descriptions of them I've ever heard. I love it. But these people are only self-serving, honestly, which is why at the end of the day, and just as history shows, they will turn on and kill one another because they refuse to do anything for themselves aside from install people who believe they'll give them free shit. And Piker says at a party with loud music, booze, chicks, right, that the conditions have deteriorated so much that people are choosing communism, standing in the middle of a massive party with probably free food and music and all these things that capitalism has brought him. But these people just went and voted for a communist. That's how bad things are. They went and voted for a communist, right? Catch on what I'm saying. But these people are brainwashed, dude. I want to ask you, though, do you think this is an education problem, or is it more of a like fuck you problem?
Dude, both, right? I think both is correct. I know that there is a sentiment in the young people of America that they've gotten a raw deal, and they're having a hard time achieving the same American dream that was much easier for the generations ahead of us. Fair enough, right? I argue against crony capitalism all the time and oligarchies of business, right? That's not true capitalism. It's a bastardization of the system, right? Like I'm not saying that the system of the United States could not use improvements. We've always been improving. Like we're always trying to improve in spirit anyway. But so there is like where the fuck you mentality comes from. And I can understand the sentiment to a certain extent, but then you layer what you just said, the education problem on top of it with all the revisionist history and the over pollution of bad. I don't like using misinformation because that's such a leftist buzzword, but the over pollution online of just bad information and revisionist history, then completely leads them down the wrong road. And now they're deceived, and that's where this idea of it's like, well, it's never been tried. We'll get it right this time around. It's not going to devolve this time. Oh, none of those leaders that you just talked about were true socialists, right? Or they'll say none of those systems were actual socialistic systems because of this or that. But, history is still undefeated, right? And those who don't learn from their history are doomed to repeat it. And history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it sure as hell rhymes. And all those things, all those tropes are true, for a reason. But I did want to get back to one thing that you said when you're like, I think that this is what they think it will be like when everything is free, right? You see it in the argument over the homelessness problem. Well, people are homeless because they don't have homes. So if you give them homes, ipso facto, they won't be homeless, and homelessness isn't a problem. But in every single place that you've seen them do this, Portland immediately comes to mind. They'll give these junkies and homeless people tiny homes, and then they trash them. They use them to shoot up drugs in and everything. And then they leave and they go back to being homeless because they are slaves. They are allow themselves to be slaves in so as they are dependent on the system. And then they descend into that dependency, and they would rather stay dependent on the system than provide for themselves, right? It's not because they don't have homes. And in the same way, people who are hungry aren't necessarily hungry just because they don't have food. The world's more complicated than that. And in the same way, the video that we watched just a little bit ago where the guy is like, all right, you're not going to run the grocery store. We'll step in and run the grocery store as soon as you leave. Like, that's not how it works. Just because you kick out all the capitalists, it's not just going to be completely free. Like beer's not going to be flowing because nobody's going to be bringing the beer in, dude. Like the food's not going to be passed out because nobody's going to be making the food and bringing the food in. That's not how this works. But I truly believe that some of these people, like Hassan Piker, who rails against capitalism on his $2,000 iPhone and in his designer clothes and
Torturing his
everything,
dog.
torturing his dog, like that. I truly think that's as far as his analysis goes. I don't think that he's capable of critical thinking. I don't think that he is. He's only capable of regurgitating rhetoric.
Well, so there was a study that was done last year on political thought variance between conservatives and liberals, essentially people that identified as having more liberal and more conservative views, not necessarily Democrats and Republicans, right? They like divided party line wise. And it showed consistently that liberals, people who identify as liberal, tend to think all in the same line with one another. And there was when you looked at the sort of like map, like this brain scan map of people who identified as more conservative, there tended to be more diversification of thought that went into political based decisions, right? And when you go and look at the voting demographic for New York from last night, you'll see 100% people that identify as Democrat, not socialists, but identify as Democrat, all went and voted for a socialist. They got up off their ass and they went out and they voted. And the people who identify as conservatives, obviously they did not go and vote for a socialist, right? But their vote was spread out among the other candidates at a rate consistent with that study that showed that there just tends to be more diversification of thought in people who identify as conservative versus liberals, who tend to think all in line with one another. And it goes into all these things like social pressures and the need for this like weird need that they have for fitting in and things like that, and that conservatives tend to not align with some of these thoughts. But it's just really interesting, and it goes to what you say, that people who identify as Democrat now don't care whoever it is the face of the party represents, or what they say or what they do, as long as Democrat leadership says this is what it is. Barack Obama came out way too fucking late, honestly, to say he doesn't endorse Mamdani. If he would have come out and said from the beginning, I don't endorse this guy, and spent as much time campaigning against him as a moderate Democrat, even though we all know Obama isn't a moderate Democrat, even though people view him as such, right? If he spent just as much time doing that, saying, no, we cannot let a socialist be the face of the Democrat Party, right, as he did on making commercials for Gavin Newsom for Prop 50 in California, maybe the Democrat Party wouldn't have to contend with this fucking loser that they've got, okay, in New York City right now. But obviously Obama is more quietly, less overtly, covertly a socialist. When you go and look at his history with Bill Ayers, who just happened to be a member of the Weather Underground, a domestic terrorist group who never went to jail for the things they fucking did, not all of them, right, even though they committed acts of domestic terrorism. But anyway, obviously, yes, I agree. Avik Opasi, sorry if I fucked that up, says Obama did that intentionally. Exactly. That's the point I'm making. He waited until like 2 days before polls closed to say, no, we don't endorse him. Because then they can go back and say, well, Obama said, which is just so funny, right? He's the face of the party. But that would have required socialist.
That would have required him caring more about the country than it would about him keeping power. What are the three things? I go back to this all the time, that people actually want: wealth, power, and prestige, and they'll do anything to get them. This is the innate greed of man, right? And so we know for a fact that elite political class, by and large, I'm not even going to put this on Democrats. The elite political class, by and large, Republicans too, care more about maintaining their wealth, power, and prestige, and whatever is best for them personally to stay in that political class, than they do for the country. If they cared what was best for the country, they would govern completely differently. Gone are the days of George Washington, like by far gone, who served as the president of the United States and never made a dime from it the entire time that that he did. All of the founding fathers had to put their estates on hold, the ones that all served in the first Congress and the second Congress and so on and so forth. Like, none of them ever made a dime from it. And now what it is to be in Congress is really to be a social media influencer. They're not interested in legislating. They're not interested in making laws because they don't ever want their name affixed to something that could come back and bite them politically. So it's only in everybody's best interest to ever be contrarian to something so that you can say that you argued against it on, whatever grounds, whether it's, no, I was a principled conservative and I argued against it. Or one of my absolute favorites right now, Thomas Massey, who's just, he's just against everything. Well, that's great, Thomas Massey. Like, what are you for? You know what I mean? Like, what do you actually stand for? Everybody wants to stand against a thing so they can go back to their constituents and be like, I was against it the entire time. But they're never actually for anything because then they have to actually put their name on a piece of paper and put something through, and it could be unpopular.
That's when you call it a grift.
That's what it is. And largely that's what government is now. So
well, Fire Fam, you guys will remember before Chris and I took our little break, we were going pretty hard in the paint on the woke right. And I say that to say two things, right? First, Chris and I were calling this out a month and a half ago when it was still sort of quiet. And while maybe only like a handful of the big wig conservative influencers were bickering about this shit, mostly online, right? Not out loud, but really timeline wise, this got bad, obviously, after Charlie Kirk's assassination, God rest him. But the second thing is really this really seemed to explode, obviously, when Nick and Tucker Carlson had that podcast the other day. Almost everyone in the conservative space had opinions on it, and whatever bridge, in my opinion, whatever bridge there was between like neocons, typical Republicans, and MAGA, I think is officially over, quite frankly. Neocons like Mark Levin or Lindsey Graham, right, are, in my opinion, cowards because they have no problem sending young men to their deaths as long as they get a financial cut. They don't have the balls to kid up and carry a gun and go do the things they want other people to do on their behalf. They're terrible humans, in my opinion. But Chris and I think that we have to say something and that what we say matters, even if we are small, because we have hopes of not being small forever. But maybe our principles will guarantee that we stay small forever. We'll see, right? Who knows? But I want to say this about the Tucker thing, and then we can have a whole conversation about it. And I want you guys in the live chat to chime in on this, please, because we need you guys to chime in on it. I don't have a problem with Tucker sitting down and hosting Nick. What I have a problem with is Tucker's softball ass interview that he did. No pushback really on anything. And I'm not saying that that's who Tucker is, even though he is, because what we did to fucking Sam Altman was hilarious, where he confronted him about his employee's suicide. I'm not saying he owes anybody anything either, right? What sort of interview he does. But what I am saying is that his failure to give Nick true pushback on his shit and hold his content up to him like a mirror, that all he did was essentially turn it into another episode of Nick Fuentes' show. And that's my take, right? I don't need people like Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin, whoever the fuck else, to tell me that it's anti-Semitic and just leave it at that. That in and of itself, in my opinion, is just proving these retards' claims that it's always the Jews, right, for everything. And I think that you should get a better fucking argument. I'm sick and tired of everything being anti-Semitic. It can be anti-Semitic, but people like Nick and Candace and Ian Carroll et al., right, are a lot more than something like that. The whole like anti-Semite accusation means absolutely nothing now because it has been completely overused and overplayed. And really, they just see it as encouragement. Okay, so what you need to do is defeat these people's rhetoric with better ideas and history. Yes. Don't call for deplatforming them. Don't call them names. Give them the rope to hang themselves with their Marxist words and themes, and then you defeat them with the history that backs up why that's a bad idea, right? So all this canceling, and all canceling has ever done is create an alternative media economy that builds and builds and builds until it's popped, and then all you've done is Streisand affected everything. Yeah. You beat bad ideas with better ideas, not shutting people up. So what we're going to do is watch an intellectually lazy person, Mark Levin, talk about this. So let's watch Mark Levin be intellectually lazy.
Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters, American haters, Churchill haters. You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them. It's called the market system. They don't have a lifetime job like a bureaucrat who we're going to protect. And if they're your friend, there's something wrong with you. No Hitler admirer, Holocaust denier, platformer should be anybody's friend, as a matter of fact. You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged, Nazi, Klan, jihadist bullshit around American patriotism. You don't get to claim you're MAGA and America first when you're lining up with the Marxists and the Islamists and Hamas and the terrorists. That's not America first. That's sick.
Yeah. You were chomping at the bit, so before I go in again, I'm going to give you the opportunity to say what you want to say.
I mean, it's largely going to be repeating what you said before, but you are absolutely correct, right? Like on one side, so I am a free speech absolutist, right? It's like the country is built on it, and it was the First Amendment for a reason, because when they looked at the Constitution that they had ratified, they said there are a few things missing in here, and they had to go back and they're like, you know what, Congress shall make no law abridging the free speech, right? You have the freedom of the press and assembly, and there's a lot of other things that goes into it, right? And they recognized that needed to be the first thing that they codified into this new Constitution. And so I stand with the founding fathers in recognizing that. And you were saying earlier, what you were saying earlier is absolutely correct. If you deplatform, censor, not allow people to speak, what I call it is you create the black marketplace of ideas where people have to go below the waves.
Economy.
Yeah, that's what you called it, to say the things that they want to say. And then, like I was saying earlier, then the censorship and the deplatforming becomes the evidence of why these bad ideas are true in and of itself. And we talked about it all the time, but the lack of evidence for a thing can't be evidence that makes it true, right? That in itself is a fallacy, but that ends up being what has happened. And Nick Fuentes is the best example that comes to mind right off the top. Has built an entire following of people based around the fact of being the most canceled man in America, or whatever he claims to be. And what they will tell you is, see, it's because they canceled him. They won't let him speak. That's how we know that Nick is telling the truth. And it's not true. He spouted, I'm not going to steal thunder from something that's coming up, but he's just spouted a ton of terrible rhetoric and just terrible ideas. And so, on the one side, no, we don't think that deplatforming is the way to go. We don't think that censorship is the way to go. You've got to let the retards speak up so that you know who the retards are, so that you can look at them and be like, that is a bad idea, and here's why, and you're not a serious person, and beat them down with facts and logic, right? And so also, it's so intellectually lazy. Somebody in the chat said it, that anti-Semitism has become the new racism. Yeah, so quickly. And everybody has this fatigue around stop calling me names. First of all, they're going to call you anti-Semitic, or they're going to call you a racist while they take all your stuff away from you and deplatform you. So do you want them to take all their stuff away from you and deplatform you, or are you more concerned about, feeling bad because they're calling you names? They're going to call you names anyway. So just ignore these people when they do that, and go about protecting your way of life, and putting your views out there and speaking actual truth. To take it to a religious argument, Jesus said that you don't light a lamp and then bury it under a bowl. No, you put it in a place where it provides light to the entire house, and in that way be a shining light into the darkness. Set your light before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven, right? To put the religious aspect to it. But then all of that, right? And then on the other side, don't freaking tell me that if I don't pledge fealty to some other country around the world, and I don't care what country it is, I don't care if it's Israel that you're talking about, but I don't care if it's Iran, to take two vastly different countries on two different ends of the spectrum. I don't care who it is. Don't tell me that I have to pledge fealty to another country and blindly accept everything that they do, or I'm not a good conservative. I'm not a good patriot. I'm not a good Christian. As soon as you start doing that, I think that that's absolutely evil. I'm an adult. I'm capable of nuanced thought and critical thinking, and everybody else here with us should be able to do the same thing. And we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, and we can look at issues and do our own research and come to a correct conclusion on things. But this is just, this is just bully tactics. That's all it is. And it's the right or people that claim to be on the right using the same bully tactics that have been, at least for the last couple decades, have been associated with the left, right? And they're just using the same tactics now. And it's okay when we do it is never an acceptable argument to me. Never an acceptable argument, right?
Correct.
But
and I would say to them that you've become everything that you said you hated. Just
you were supposed to destroy the Sith.
Years, right? They are too intellectually lazy to do the right thing, which is to confront and defeat it. And with that being said, I would say to these guys, you just let Nick hang himself with his words. And I want you guys in the live chat to ask yourself, is this really somebody who represents America first? And when I say that, I mean America first outside of just hating Israeli and foreign influence, wherever that comes from, and the money that America gives Israel or other foreign governments. Because if that was the only metric, we dislike foreign influence. We dislike giving money to foreign governments, right? But that's not all of what Nick means when he says these things, because everything else he says is actually anti-American to the core, and I'll prove it to you. But maybe this is where we lose some of you guys. I hope it isn't. But if you've got an opinion, please keep it respectful. Put it in the comments. But we're going to start with Nick showing a video of Nick, and so you can hear what he has to say in his own words, and then I'm going to talk about what he says. So
it all means nothing if we don't get our people in office, if we don't get our people in government. And that's why I tell Groypers, don't let them put your name on a list. Hide, conceal your views like they did. Like they did. Don't let Levin put you on a list. Your job is to get into the Ivy Leagues. Your job is to get into these offices, do what you need to do, say what you need to say, hold it close to the chest. But we bleed for America. That's why I like to raise the right hand. You don't have to broadcast it to everybody, and you can say what you need to say. But when we're in private, it's America first. It's Christ is King. And you're not going to know how many of us there are, and you're not going to know which one of us we are. And you're not going to get a good count, and you're not going to know all our names. And slowly but surely, you will be encircled, and you will be surrounded, and one day you're going to wake up in the Groyper party. GOP is going to stand for a different thing. That's why I tell people, get involved. And in the elections, get involved. Don't necessarily show yourself, but in 2028, we'll be there, and you're going to need to vote your conscience. You need to vote on this issue. American sovereignty. We're not going to vote for more Israel first subjugation. We won't do it. If you vote for that, you deserve what you get. I don't care if we lose the fucking election. I don't care if we throw the election. If we lose the election, it's the Republicans' fault. We're asking for one thing. And they're worried because they know they've lost the 18 to 40 demographic. It's like all Zoomers, all millennials, and half of Gen X are saying enough is enough.
Right. So there's some funny stuff with this video. But up front, I want to say, and I'll say the easy part up front, because there's a bunch of fucking people online that back up Nick, and they're big names, right? Like Ian Carroll and Candace Owens, who constantly say that people aren't actually engaging with Nick's ideas. They're just clipping Nick, and then they're attacking him based on a clip. So what I'm going to say to you is that this is 2 minutes, what you just watched, 2 minutes of Nick Fuentes. It is not a 10-second soundbite. This right here, what you've just watched, is formed thought, elaboration, and conclusion. That is not clipping. I have let Nick come to the end of the conclusion of the point that he was trying to make, and now I'm going to talk about it. Okay, there's a big difference. Anyway, I agree with Nick on his takes with foreign influence and giving money to other countries completely. If other countries want to buy things from the United States rather than us giving them, right? They want to give us their own money for things, then fine. You can purchase shit from us. That's money coming in, not money going out. But that's where Nick and I's agreement stops, okay? What Nick is describing is a chicken shit way of going about things. What is he suggesting? He's suggesting people lie to get to the places they need to be to take power. How is that different than any politician now anyway? Okay, these rhinos, right, that he would, he expressly hates. But what does that ultimately mean? It means that lying to Americans is a good idea, which means Nick thinks his ideas are the only right ideas. This is the level of delusion that most people seeking power have. They think that everybody agrees with them, and anybody who doesn't, right, gets in their way is an enemy or worth being lied to. Okay. And now we're right back to Carl Schmitt and the friend enemy distinction. But more importantly, what he's describing is a fully fleshed out Marxist framework that has existed for over 100 years. And I'll go right back to Antonio Gramsci, like I did at the top of the show here. This is what Gramsci calls a war of position, or what Rudy Dutschke said, the long march through the institution, which is based on Gramsci's work. Dutschke coined that phrase in the 1960s, referencing Mao's whole long march thing with the Cultural Revolution, and he used it as a metaphor to describe slow and strategic infiltration of universities, media, and government. And if it sounds familiar to you, it's because it fucking should, because it's everything that the conservatives have been accusing the liberals of doing, who are communists, right, for the past 40 fucking plus years. And he's telling you to do it too, which is exactly what Nick is suggesting here. It's not novel. It's from the Marxist playbook, and he justifies this by saying, do what they did. And this is what Marxists would call historical materialism, point blank. So let's go into this grandpappy of everybody who's ever been a Marxist, Karl Marx himself, and let's see what he said in the Communist Manifesto, right? The ruling ideas of each age have ever been the ideas of its ruling class, which imply that overturning oppression, even by oppressive means, is morally sanctioned once power shifts to the working class. So what got you there and isn't okay is okay for me to get me there. Right. And it's okay. It's cowardice on its face. And it's and here's where, right, this whole I'm America first, and if you don't believe in me, you're not America first. Okay. Where his America first claim really turns into Fuentes first, because Nick doesn't actually believe in American ideals. And he says things that are antithetical to American ideals. And he does that anytime he talks about what his actual ideology really is. Americans believe in moral responsibility. We believe in equal justice under the law. We are not perfect. These concepts are goals we are supposed to be moving toward constantly. So replacing that belief with an ends justify the collectivist means ideology is fundamentally anti-American. You cannot be America first if your entire ideological base is antithetical to the American experiment. You don't get to co-opt that fucking word or that fucking phrase when you don't believe in any of that shit. And what did John Adams say? We are a government of laws and not of men. Those are Adams's words in the Massachusetts Constitution, saying we never serve a faction or collectivist causes. And Chris, you made a really good point when I put this video up on X earlier today. I'd like for you to expand on it here in a second about Nick's whole statement, in bringing in the whole Christ is King thing and how what he's saying is also anti-Christian. But I'd like to say real quick on that too, that you guys will remember a couple of weeks ago when I was reading Mein Kampf to you guys like it was a bedtime story. Okay, check out the Mein Kampf. But Hitler said that I believe today that my conduct is in accordance with the will of the Almighty Creator, and standing guard against the Jew, I am defending the handiwork of the Lord. But then he also called Christianity an invention of the Bolshevik Jews, then neutered the Aryans and was a Bolshevik Jew invention, right? So you can't have those two things. They don't coexist. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, 100%. They're using Machiavellian tactics of like the end justifies the means, and none of it is to preserve actual American ideals set forth by the founding fathers. Like it's all just meant to get our political party into power. Like that's what they're trying to do. And it was the exact same thing that we watched Mark Levin just say a little bit ago, the exact same tactics like you just brought about, from what was his name? Gramsci. I want to make sure that I'm pronouncing it. Gramsci, thank you. Long march through the institutions. Don't let them know what you're for, right? We're just going to, it's all trying to get the political party into power. That's what they're trying to do. And it's okay when we do it is never okay. But what I was saying about the religious side of it is like when he tries to wrap his Marxist tactics in the trappings of Christianity, he's completely off base with this. His version of Christianity is some type of white identitarian Christian culture that has, you know what I mean? Like where he's saying that Christianity is like a white cultural thing. I think his take on it is, or something like that. Because if you actually read the Bible, if you go and you read the Gospels, I already quoted it earlier, like at no point did Jesus ever tell his followers, hey, just keep everything that I tell you, keep it down inside. Don't let them know what you're for or what you're against, you know, Aaron Burr, right? And then just like get into political
Cataline.
power, right? And then when you have political power, then cram Christianity down on people. That's not what Jesus said at all. He said, let your light so shine before men that they would see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. He said, go into all the nations preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, like I have showed to you. I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? Jesus himself, I like to point out all the time, was killed for the things that he said because it was not politically correct at the time with the Jewish political power there in Jerusalem. And so they sought for a way to have Jesus killed, and they ended up, you know, taking him before the Roman courts and then having the Romans crucify him. But, you know, go. You want to jump in? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, before you get too far, there's like several comments in the chat that I want to like. They're doing what I asked them to do by commenting. I don't want to hit
dope, dude. Yeah, for sure.
If you were done. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to jump up to this one from Brandon143. He says, but what is he talking about in the video you just played? What is the context for the topic he's referring to when he's making his point? Brother, I played you over 2 minutes of Nick making a point. That was the whole point. I can't play an entire episode of Nick's show and just sit there for 4 hours and recount everything that he says. The whole point of what he was saying is that it's okay to lie to get into political power. That's like for two plus minutes, he sat there and described this. And all I did was provide historical context that this is exactly how Marxists have operated since the beginning. Let's see. Palin Republican. Who funds Hamas? Who created Hamas? What other country? Okay, this one. Why do other countries need America's money to exist? I personally believe that if your country needs American money to exist, then you don't deserve to be a country. So that answers your question there. Why does a majority of America's Congress have dual citizenship with Israel? I don't think the majority of America's Congress has dual citizenship with Israel. Chris, you should check which members of them do.
Yeah,
but I don't think that you should be a representative of this country and have dual citizenship anywhere. You should be an American. That's it, which is why I think idiots like Ilhan Omar, who sit there and avidly discuss Somalia first, have no right being a representative. And if she wants to sit there and say she's going to put Somalia first, that should be right there, null and void. Her entire tenure as a representative should be over and done with. So how many people in Congress have dual citizenship with Israel?
I'm working on it right now.
Oh, okay,
I'm working on it.
I don't think it's the majority, but I would sit there and say that, no, I don't think that they should have dual citizenship. So
no, I don't think you should be able to dual citizenship with any other country if you're serving in my government. That should be a common sense position.
Yeah. Homesteader Nick says the Talmud said Jesus burns in a shit fire, so there's that. I know so many Jews who have explained to me, and if you just go and spend a little bit of time reading what that says, the Talmud is not actually something that the majority of Jews follow as like the Bible, the way the Christians follow the Bible. I know it says some absolutely terrible ass shit though. Anyway,
yeah.
Palin probably says, why is Netanyahu allowed to address America's Congress as if he's their boss? I don't think he's allowed to address America's Congress as if he's their boss. There have been plenty of world leaders who have talked to Congress before. Anyway.
According to verified sources, including fact-checking organizations like PolitiFact, no current members of the 119th U.S. Congress, as of November 2025, have confirmed dual citizenship with Israel.
Like, what's his name? Brian Mast walking around Congress in his IDF uniform? I think that's retarded as fuck. And I think he should have lost his fucking seat the second he did that. You're not going to sit there and walk around in an IDF uniform. He says, Burt Match says, none will say they disavowed the Talmud. I completely disagree with you. I know Jews who have sat there and say that they don't agree with it and disavow the stuff that's in the Talmud. So I think there's a difference. But just like, look, I'll put it this way. Anytime there are humans involved, there is extremism involved. Just as there are humans that are way too laissez-faire about absolutely everything. You've got all ends of this sort of political spectrum when you talk about things like that. So, and I say this too, that discussing the worst or the weakest point of anything and using it as a way to describe the entire thought process or the entire group of people is fallacious, right? So if there are people who are extremists in any group, whatever that is, then those people deserve to be refuted with facts and contended with facts, right? Any extremists, right? So whether that's a Jew or a Muslim or a Christian or whatever the fuck you are as an extremist, there's extremists anywhere, anytime you have human beings. It's just a nature of human beings. So
And there's always
I appreciate you guys engaging in the chat, though. I just want to say.
For sure. And there's always going to be people that are going to use any and every means that they can in order to shut up their political opponents and bully other people into accomplishing their agenda. And that's a lot of what you're seeing. That's a lot of what we're pointing out, right? And so in the same way that we're saying, hey, Mark Levin, I think it's fallacious to say that you don't get to criticize Israel. That makes you, again, a bad conservative, that you're not MAGA. You're not a good Christian because you don't support Israel and everything that they do ever. Like I was saying earlier, I'm not going to pledge my fealty to a secular government. I don't, as a Christian, pledge my undying fealty, and I'm using that word specifically, to the United States. Because if or when, and this is why I pledge my devotion to it.
I get what you're saying.
I've pledged my life to it. But even when the United States does something that I think is worthy of criticism that goes against my faith in God, then I'm going to criticize the United States as well. It's why we're blessed with the freedom of speech. I think it's retarded to use that argument to pledge undying fealty to a country, especially if it's a secular government, because you're saying that it's above reproach, it's above criticism. I have to support it no matter what it does. No, absolutely not. There's only one perfect being, and that's God, and I support him. And then to everybody else, it's like I got to follow God first, and then
I actually like that you brought up the whole government thing, because I think that group, like Nick's group or whatever, likes to say that the Israeli government is like a theocratic government, or that it's a religious government, right?
Yeah.
And it isn't. And if that were true, then there would be no Arabs in Israeli parliament. There would be no Arabs that serve as police officers. There would be no Arabs that serve in the IDF. So like, that's not fundamentally true. It is a secular government. Otherwise, things like that wouldn't be the way it is. Burmese says, none will disavow that Jesus isn't Lord. Jews do not believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. That's just the difference between Judaism and Christianity. I don't expect a Jew to sit here, unless they're a Messianic Jew, I guess, but I don't expect Jews to sit there and say Christ is Lord or Christ is King. They don't believe it. Just as I wouldn't expect a Muslim to say that. They do not believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. They think that he's a prophet. So these are things I don't expect from people, just like I would not expect a Jew or a Muslim to sit there and have me blaspheme my faith and say that I don't think Christ is the Messiah, right? These things go both ways, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make here. So, but we got another Nick video that I would like to jump into, and we're going to do it. So keep up with the comments. I fucking love the engagement. You guys are awesome. Honestly. Thank you.
100%.
The reason that we talk about this, by the way, I know a lot of black people see this and they go, man, why are you always talking about black people, this and that? Because there just needs to be some shame here. Well, there's a few reasons. First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them. Every bit justified. And you want to know why? Because we see what happens. And nobody is under any obligation due to liberal ideology to put themselves in harm's way. If you're a white person and you're going to work or going to the ball game or going to the city at night, you don't want to enter into the terror dome where you're suddenly in a sudden death match. You're like in the gulag in Call of Duty fighting for your life all of a sudden because you got on the wrong train car. Because a car full of black people pulled up on you by the bus stop. You turn and you walk the other way. You avoid their neighborhoods. You avoid going out on Memorial Day or Labor Day weekend at night in certain places. When you see them, you start walking in the other direction. And we are every bit justified because we see what's going on and we don't want to die.
Nick says, Homestead Nick says, but Talmudist Jews believe Jesus is burning and shit. What you suppose they think about us? I really don't care what they think about me. And I don't think I necessarily need to care. You said because people have a massive influence in our society. I would ask you this question. Please describe the massive influence that you're talking about in detail, because anytime I hear anybody say this, most of what I hear is hyperbolic rhetoric. Mostly like the comment that was made earlier about the majority of our people in Congress have dual citizenship with Israel, when Chris just looked it up and that's not true at all. Right. So Brandon 143 says, I feel like criticizing Israel, the Jewish religion on the right, is frowned upon and you are immediately ostracized from the political discourse if you have different opinions on Israel. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that's the truth. That's sort of the point we're getting at. I'm saying that the whole anti-Semitism, you can't criticize Israel thing is a tired and stupid and fallacious argument. But what I am saying is, or the other thing I'm saying is that collectivist thought and blaming all Jews for all of this shit, which is what Nick does all the time, is not right either. And
Right.
can sit here and walk and chew bubblegum at the same time and say, yeah, I'm going to criticize the behavior of another government. It doesn't make me anti-Semitic to criticize the secular government of the state of Israel. But I also don't agree with these other things that you're saying about them either. There is not a binary decision going on here. And that's basically the point we're trying to make.
Yeah, and every single time that you guys see, when Brandon, anytime that you see a position that's immediately supposed to make you feel a big thing, and then you have to come down on it right now, you're either with me on this topic or you're against me on this topic. What do we call that?
Yep.
That is the psyop. And that's
exactly
the way that it's designed to go. And so that's why they'll look at you and they'll be like, no, you don't get to call yourself MAGA if you criticize Israel. That's not MAGA. It's like, whoa, you just drew the most ridiculous binary right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
It is a binary, and that's exactly what we've been railing against the left on for the past 4 fucking years. But this is the video you just watched, right? It's more collectivism. And I want you to notice something too. You guys were just talking about using phrases like anti-Semitism, okay? Notice that I'm not just saying outright that Nick is a racist. That's not the point I'm about to make. That is way too easy. Like I said before, you beat bad ideas with good ideas, not stupid, superficial rhetoric and name calling. So let's begin again where he and I agree. Yes, inner cities and the communities that exist in the inner cities there have a serious crime problem, but it isn't because people are just black, right? The culture problem is one of entitlement, in my opinion, nihilism, right? Is pretending like they're beholden to their economic situation when they could just shut the fuck up and get a job and earn money and pay for shit, right? And be a productive member of society. That's where I agree with him on. Okay. But that's not what Nick is actually saying here. Nick is saying blacks, which is a collectivist way of espousing the worst thing about something to everyone or everything in that group, right? And what else is he doing? He's using the whole per capita crime thing. So if we're going to talk statistics, let's do it, right? 35% of violent crime in any given year is committed by black people. That is a fact, okay? But you know what's fun about stats? Chris, you know what's fun about stats? We've had this conversation about statistics before, so let's break it down.
There are lies and damn statistics.
That means that 0.2% of the entire black population commits those crimes. 0.2, okay? Not all, not blacks, 0.2, okay? So applying the crimes of 0.2% to everyone who's black is the definition of collectivism. Just like white people don't like being called school shooters, okay? Because technically there are more white school shooters than there are any other color, okay? It has nothing to do with the fact that you're white. It has to do with the fact that you're an unhinged piece of shit, right? But this is the United States of America, where we don't do collectivist bullshit like this. We are and always have been a country of, for, and by the individual. So again, I say nothing about Nick is America first. You can't be, because his ideology is in no way representative of what America represents. He is Fuentes first, and he uses sophistry to convince you that he's anything other than that.
Yeah.
Period.
End of sentence.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, unless you have comments. Soraya,
No, I don't think I don't think I
can
can put any more exclamation point on what you said. Like, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, let's hit the last video on Nick, and then we can talk about other things. other things.
I'm not surprised why women don't support me. I'm not surprised why women don't support me. Women are irrational and sensitive. It's just like my whole life. Because I was always like the class clown. I was always like bullying women. And women have always been like simultaneously charmed, but also like, oh, stop it. Oh, you're so annoying. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. That's how women are with like with like my personality type. You're like a rascal. You're like a bastard. And they're kind of like, because I'm like a rule breaker and stuff. And so women simultaneously are intrigued by that, but they also have to pretend like they're not, because women, it's sort of like how a lot of women want to be raped. And when I say raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
So yeah, as you can see, yeah, I know that's an old one of Nick. Okay, he's definitely feeling himself on this one. It's sort of funny, right? Yeah. Until he starts saying that women want to get raped and beaten. But I think this one really speaks for itself. I really doubt women have said anything like that to Nick ever, quite frankly. That's just my opinion. I don't know to be true, but no, I don't think women want to be raped and beaten and have to pretend like they don't want to be raped and beaten. There are women who like it rough, but that requires that key word, consent, right? And rape is not consent. Nick is literally the incel loser dude that sits at the lunch table with you, right? Who decides to speak up when everybody is talking about their girlfriend, and then everybody just sort of turns and looks at him as like, that's the first thing that you've said ever, and that's what you came up with, right? And then just kind of looks at him. This one's easy, obviously. I do not think that women want to be raped and beaten. There's quite a big difference between, like I said, chicks who like it rough, because that requires a transactional relationship of providing consent. But yeah, so there you go. I mean, like, these are pretty psycho fucking things.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think a lot of this for him has come from a place of understanding social media and understanding how to say outlandish things that have gotten him the internet traffic that he desires. And so a lot of this is definitely a part of audience capture for him, where he's built up this group of largely disaffected, young, Gen Z, terminally online men, right? And there's a lot of angst, and there's a lot of, like I said, disenfranchisement, and a lot of just feeling like society has just been dumping on them because the largest portion of his audience are also white, right? And so this idea that everything is your fault, you know, it's like you are the cause of all of society's problems because you're a white homosexual, white heterosexual male, right? It's like, I can understand the sentiment of why these young dudes are looking to somebody that's finally saying the thing that I've been thinking or that I've been feeling, right? So there is a certain amount of audience capture that goes into that, because he recognizes what his audience wants to hear. He's built a brand around it, and now he is.
That should concern you that people want to hear things like that.
It does. It absolutely does. But that's why he continually says things that are now even more and more audacious and more outlandish and outrageous, because it's like he still understands driving the clicks, right? And driving internet traffic. So there is that aspect of it. But here's the reason that I was saying earlier too, and you got into it a little bit with the platforming, right? It's like, I'm not against the fact that Tucker Carlson sat down with them and had a conversation. I think that Tucker Carlson was irresponsible in his platforming him, in allowing him to just launder Nick's viewpoints through Tucker's platform without pushing back on him on anything, and allowing him just to say all this outlandish stuff like Stalin Muslim was cool, which is why I celebrate his birthday. It just
Yeah, that was nuts.
these weird things that he said during those clips, right? So, but also you can't censor him and ban him because, again, that just creates a black market of ideas. And he's got such a big following now that with these disenfranchised young white guys, like I was talking about, that if you were to ban him, then the fact that you're banning him becomes the very validity that they need, which is why, this angst is justified, right? It becomes the evidence for what they're feeling. And that's not the case. All right. So there's a lot of things going on here, but at the same time, like, I'm going to take a principled stand on free speech on the one side and be like, we don't ban, we don't deplatform. And I'm not going to tell somebody, if you don't believe everything that I believe about a certain issue, then you can't be America first. Because that's not the case. Mm-hmm. We can be nuanced. The world is a little more complicated than that. And issues are very rarely binary. Some are, but issues are rarely binary.
I'm curious. Nick Homesteader next says the copium is strong. Who you're referring to? Let's see. Palin Republican said everyone is talking about Nick now. I guess his strategy is working. Yeah, listen, I get the whole not giving somebody attention. But I think it's beyond that with somebody like him now, who now has over 1 million followers on X, and that's happened a lot recently over the past month. Almost at 500,000 here on Rumble. I haven't looked at his other platforms to know what those numbers are. I don't know. I'm not sure what other platforms he's on. I know he's not allowed on YouTube anymore. I'm pretty sure. But it's reached the point where me and Chris, right, who actually like this country, we love this country, we believe in the ideals, actual American ideals, don't want to see what happened to the Democrat Party being captured by ideologues, Marxist ideologues on the left, being captured, the right being captured by the same ideologues on our side.
Yes.
This is the whole horseshoe theory concept that Chris and I, up until 2 weeks ago when we, had to take a break from doing the podcast, we're talking about.
Yeah.
These things, they almost meet because they follow the same strategy. The first video that I played for you guys is over 2 minutes of Nick talking, and here's the parallels between Marxism and Islam, right? Describing what taqiyya is, which is pretending to do or believe anything that basically would trick an infidel so that you can get into an institution or you can survive. No other religion, not the Abrahamic religions like Judaism or Christianity, would tell you to blaspheme yourself to survive. They say the opposite, actually, right? So there's that parallel there that exists, but he's sitting there and talking about all of these different ways that Marxists, over all the way from Lenin all the way on up through Mao and Franco and everywhere else you can think of, Maduro and Chavez and all these fucking people, these concepts, any of them have talked about and told people to do and to believe. And what is woke? What is Marxism? It is an all-pervasive orthodoxy. That's what it is. It has an in-group, it has an out-group, it has a dogma. And like I said at the top of the show, for Marxists, the replacement for God is history revisionism. That's what it is. That's what these people thrive on. They've created an alternative narrative about what's going on in history, what happened in history, so that they can spin something in the present to get you to believe something. There are kernels of truth in within the propaganda that comes out to a false dialectic. This is called sophistry. Homesteader next is, how can you be America first and okay with Islam? It's oil and water. How can you be America first and say Talmudists are okay? Oil and water. We are a Christian nation. The further we get away, the more it goes to shit. All right, let's break this question down. How can you be America first and okay with Islam? First and foremost, I want to tell you this: that America, the United States, has freedom
around here.
Yeah. Well, it has, the United States has freedom of religion. Okay, first and foremost, you are allowed to be a peacefully practicing Muslim in this country. What we have a problem with is Islamists, people who are ideologically captured by Islam as an orthodoxy that is meant to be pervasive and take over another country. So just want to say that right there. So how can you be America first and say Talmudists are okay? I didn't say Talmudists are okay.
You put words in my mouth.
That's correct. I am talking about the collectivist idea that the Jews are responsible for everything. That is not the same. We are a Christian nation, and the further we get away from that, the more it goes to shit. I completely agree that the United States was built on Christian principles. Even when you try to get away from Christian principles by talking about morality or secular morality, you wind up talking about Christian principles. It is inescapable to get away from that. So I agree with you in that outcome. See how it works when they outnumber you. Listen, man, I've been in countries where there are Muslim terrorists who control an area and have been outnumbered, right? I've seen what that happens when a woman is talking to kids and her community who have to deal with AIDS all the time about using a condom if they're going to have sex, and winds up with both of her arms fucking cut off in front of them. So you want to talk to me about being outnumbered and some of these other things? Let's fucking talk about it, big dog. Okay. But we're not outnumbered in this country. Now, there are countries around the world like the UK that are very much dealing with that. And I don't want to fucking see issues like that here happening in the United States. But you deal with these problems by talking about them. You deal with these problems by contending with them and showing historically why they're fucked up, why people who use revisionist history to serve their purposes are wrong, and you hit them with facts, right? You call out people like this. No, I don't believe in Islamists. No, I don't believe in people who think Christians should die. Just like I don't believe in Marxist ideologues who run for the mayoral. Excuse me, let me back it up. Slow down. Who run for mayor in New York City. I don't believe in any of those fucking people. So I can sit here and talk about what America First is and use the entirety 250 fucking years of what's existed in this country and use those as principles to stand on and talk about it, and sit here and say somebody whose America First ideals end at stopping foreign aid for other governments, and that's it. That's it. That's the only thing he's got that's America First. If he can sit there and talk about all these other things, like I've done chapter and verse for the past 20 minutes talking about this, none of those. Collectivist ideology is un-American. America is solely founded on the rights of the individual. Period.
And I think we're starting to blend some arguments here too, right? Because I see like Braden comes up on the net, and what did she just say? Islam believes in Sharia law, and that is in direct conflict with our Constitution. Listen, like, you got to understand that Brandon and I have a background where we've served in the United States military, right? And so lots of people from different walks of life all being in a single unit together and having a single mission, and being able to put that mission above self and work together in pursuit of a common goal, right? So, like, when we say that, when you guys are talking about these different groups, and even now we're starting to, that is in itself a collectivist argument, because you're lumping anybody that believes in Islam into that group. And yes, it is a part of their religious text, and I'm going to give you that credence, right? But are there people that believe in Islam that are willing to integrate into the United States, to truly assimilate in the United States culture and quietly practice the religion in the background? Yes, there are. If you are an Islamist that wants to overthrow the United States and implement Sharia law, even at a local level, even if it's at a small jurisdictional level or in a city, right? Like you see Somalis trying to do in Minneapolis, like, no, not okay with that. That's not assimilating into the United States. You're not integrating. I'm completely against that. That's not America First. Obviously, you're trying to fundamentally change the country and make it Sharia law, right?
Well,
but I'm not going to talk about. Go ahead, man. Jump in.
Sorry. This comment from Nick, he says, and you represented the USA when you were there, and they knew if they fucked with you, it was trouble. You had a nation on your sleeve. Tried in 10 years. Did you miss like the whole point? Everything I was talking about with Zohran Mamdani at the beginning here, and talking about Takia, and me giving you the reference to the 1979 Iran revolution, where the leftists in that country paired up with the Ayatollah and wound up getting fucking killed the day after the Ayatollah took control of that country. Like, what I'm saying is I understand that it is indeed a threat. I'm not saying that threat doesn't exist. What I'm saying is you don't fight collectivism with more collectivism. That's what I'm saying. Like that is like a summed up sentence for this entire argument, that just because they do it, I mean, obviously, like, if somebody is in the active process of trying to physically harm you, you have every right to defend yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. But these pervasive tactics and the cowardice that Nick is outlined for those 2+ minutes I played for you, no, that is antithetical to the United States, completely and totally. What he just basically said is it's okay for people who are running for political office that you're going to vote for to lie to you. But I guarantee if I sat here and said it's totally okay that these rhinos lied to you, Nick, he would disagree with me. And that's where this bullshit collectivist argument will always come back and bite people like that in the ass, because they think it's okay for them and it's not okay for everybody else. This is that whole fucking father, whatever his fucking name is. At first they came for the trade unionist, but I didn't speak up because I'm not a trade unionist. All these other fucking things, right? That eventually your bullshit would come around to bite you in the ass. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. How do you make sure they are assimilating? Also, the religion calls to lie and deceive to get what they want. Yeah, Brandon just said that. Brandon absolutely just said that. And how do you make sure that they're assimilating? Hey, you know, now you're starting to run off into immigration policies and all kinds of stuff like that. I've said on here before, I think the United States should absolutely have, at a minimum, 10 years of a complete and total moratorium on immigration. And certainly talk about certain countries where we could extend that moratorium on for a much longer period of time. I think that there are countries that produce people whose ideas are completely and totally antithetical with American culture.
I think that English should be the official language of this country. I don't think that you should be able to go and vote for an American politician in any other fucking language other than English. I wouldn't expect to go to Germany and immigrate there. And well, let's not use Germany because that's an alphabet I can read. I wouldn't expect to go to Japan and vote for a Japanese politician and expect that ballot is in English for me. I wouldn't do that. So no, I'm not going to put up that shit here. I think that you should not be a first generation immigrant and be able to run for office. I think that people that are coming out of high school should have to pass the same sort of exam that you need to take when you're trying to naturalize. I think that you should have to take a competency exam on economics and politics before you have the ability to run for office and show everybody that you know what the fuck you're talking about. I think that there should be more difficult barriers to entry into leading this country. And I think that being an American here for generations is a better metric as well to say you've got some skin in the game here, essentially, and that you're not showing up here and being an infiltrator, as it were, and trying to change everything from the inside. This is, you know, like the Yuri Bezmenov playbook over here going on. Anyway. Yeah.
And I love this. I'm going to interact with this one last comment before we get out of here. And let's see. Tilt says, Israel first policies got us into this mess. It is that simple. See, no, it is not that simple, right? Are Israel first policies a problem? Yes, they are a problem. I think that the secular state of Israel has a far outsized influence on the American government. Is that a problem? Yes, that is a problem. Is that the problem? No, it is not the problem. And you're falling for the same argument on that side when you get somebody to make you feel a big thing and then go, see, here, this is the only thing that you need to care about. It's a single issue. And now you have to be completely either totally for everything that I say. And if you're not, then you're against me and you're on the other side and you're part of that problem. Like, do you see the psyop? Is it a problem? Yes, it's a problem. Should we solve that problem? Yes, we need to solve that problem. But it is not that simple. There's a whole host of problems. American foreign policy, and all my opinions that I give here on this podcast are completely and totally my own. They don't represent the United States Army, the Department of War, any other entity within the United States government. But United States foreign policy needs a total and complete makeover in a lot of areas. In the same way the United States domestic policy needs a complete and total makeover in a lot of areas. It is never just that is the problem. If we solve that problem, then everything else goes away. It's much more complicated than that. The world's more complicated than that. My brother in Christ, you've got to be able to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. You're going to have to be able to recognize nuance. You're going to have to be able to critically think, and you're going to have to be able to just do more than one thing at a time. Don't fall for the dialectic where it's either all of one and none of the other. It can't be like that. The world's not that simple, and only Siths deal in absolute. Am I right, boys? I know I'm right.
I love that. I love that comment.
Whoa, what's that? The only Siths deal in absolutes?
Yeah, because that's an absolute statement.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, that was the kick around, and I completely and totally forgot to give you a little bit of range familiarization up top, so I'll go ahead and do it now. That was the kick around. We had a lot of fun, watched a lot of videos tonight. Hasn't been that funny, so I promise I'm going to palate cleanse you here in a second, because we do have laughs here on the show. I absolutely promise. After this, we're going to jump into the headlines. They're not going to be the same boring headlines that everybody else is talking about. I think we got most of that out of the way during the kick around, because we've been gone. We knew what you guys wanted to hear when we came back. But these are going to be the headlines that you should be paying attention to, because we're always trying to make you guys harder to kill. And the smarter you are, the harder you are to kill. After we get done with that, I do have a no-knock breakdown for you guys tonight. This one is very interesting. A police encounter shot from a very interesting angle. And then after we get done with that, the rest of the night's of you guys, by you guys, and for you guys, because we'll head into the comment section, which we've really basically been doing all night. You guys have been part of the conversation, which has been absolutely awesome. So without further ado, like I said, let's come up for a little bit of air and palate cleanse. Brandon, I chose this one perfectly for you.
What's up,
this is some intellectual humor I thought you would enjoy.
It is not that simple.
I have to go into the auditorium and personally jerk off every guy in the audience.
That's a lot of jerking.
Yeah, even if he's jerking 2 at a time, there are 800 guys in that room, so that's 400 times whatever the mean jerk time is.
The what?
Mean jerk time. I mean, it doesn't matter, but hypothetically, time is equal to 400 total jerks at a 2-dick rate.
Unless Ehrlich jerks off 4 guys at a time, and then we can cut that in half.
How would he do 4 guys? He's got 2 hands, so that's 2 dicks at a time, right?
Look, you have 2 guys on either side with their dicks tip to tip, so you're going full length. 4, see?
Oh, from the middle out. That does make sense.
Like 2 shake weights.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do, hypothetically, is minimize time, which is 800 dudes multiplied by mean jerk time divided by 4 dicks at a time. Of course, Ehrlich would have to pre-sort guys by height so that their dicks lined up.
Not by height, technically. The measurement that we're looking for really is dick to floor. Call that D2F.
Huh. Oh my God.
You know, if a guy's dick was long enough, he would be able to reach up or down to another guy with a different D2F. The longer the dick, the greater the D2F bridge. I would still be able to jerk it off in one smooth motion. I would just have to jerk it on an angle.
Does girth similarity affect Ehrlich's ability to jerk different dicks simultaneously?
Shit, yeah, I think it would.
Bro science right there.
Yeah, I think it would.
Well.
All right. Anyway.
Gay!
Yeah, you already know. All right. Anyway, guys.
Tilt, my friend, if you're going to keep saying that, you should provide some evidence. That's all I got to say.
Are we still getting drive-by?
He says, what is the Charlie Kirk assassination?
Terrible. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You have to.
Would love
say
to
a little
hear
more.
your actual refutable evidence that Israel shot and killed. It's funny because they killed somebody who, for the most part, was not critical of them in any way, shape, or form, but somehow Nick Fuentes is still alive. Anyway.
Well, even Nick Fuentes came out and said, not that I want to defend him right now, but even Nick Fuentes came out and made the statement to his audience that it's like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, there are plenty of anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, whatever you want to call it, content creators out there that would make a little bit more sense to shoot. But anyway,
100%. Well, hey, for this first article, Brandon, we're going to head straight over to Ground News. We absolutely love Ground News here. It is a fantastic tool. We are not sponsored by them yet, but we would absolutely love the opportunity in the future if they were ever so inclined. The reason we love this tool, guys, is because it's a news aggregator. It goes out and it's going to find all the articles pertaining to a certain topic, and then it's going to collate them all down and show you the political bias of the news sources that you're reading. It gives you a lot of great tools showing you where the news sources came from, how they're covering it, and why this is interesting, or why this should be important to you, is because you can see which stories that you're missing based on the news sources that you're not typically looking at. And one of my favorite tools in here is called the blind spot. If you go and look at that, it's going to show you stories that are being covered completely and totally by one side and missed by the other completely. So we love this. It cuts our research
People
time
did not
way
like your palate
down.
cleanser. I love that.
Oh no,
No, it was not a palate cleanser, apparently.
that was a palate cleanser. You guys don't. Maybe it's too military humor. That's all right. It's all right. Anyway, let's head straight over to this one and check it out. All right, so we got China bans foreign AI chips in state-funded data centers. How interesting. All right. Bullet points go like this. In recent weeks, China ordered all new state-funded data centers to use only domestically produced artificial intelligence chips in one of Beijing's most sweeping moves, two sources said. U.S. export controls prompted Beijing to push for semiconductor self-sufficiency after Washington's 2019 export bans limited China's access to advanced chips. Several projects have been suspended after regulators instructed that data center projects less than 30% complete must remove foreign chips or cancel plans, with state funding totaling more than $100 billion US since 2021. The move hands advantage to domestic suppliers like Huawei Technologies, Cambricon, More Threads, and Inflame, while foreign firms such as NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel face exclusion from lucrative government-backed projects. Some advanced chips remain available via gray market channels, and developers continue to rely on NVIDIA's software ecosystem despite its market share plunging to nearly zero this year. Womp womp.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's it.
Sweet. So I picked this article because I think it actually is it's a lot more important than I think people are going to realize just seeing the headline. And I say that because this is China's like first truly big move toward decoupling from the United States. And everybody's been talking about this recently. The United States is trying to decouple from China. And, there's a lot of people that don't like that Trump is trying to decouple from China, even though Chris and I are definitely avid supporters of that. But it says that the CCP realizes, to me anyway, that Trump is not going to play ball with them anymore in this arena, right? And I think this also makes taking Taiwan much more thinkable or approachable for the Chinese is another reason why I think you should care. Though now it wouldn't necessarily be for like TSMC, but mostly for the symbolic stance that they've taken, which they've committed themselves to completely and totally, one China policy. They wouldn't have to risk China's tech sector anymore to do it because it would exist on the mainland and not on mostly just Taiwan, right? And that also means that their framework of national destiny that they talk about can still play out, but there won't be the whole national survival bit of it anymore because of the tech onshoring that they would have done. But what this does, though, to me, is potentially push that out further. Without the U.S., China is likely 10 to 15 years behind the United States on chip parity. And what I mean, obviously, is tech theft or tech transfer, illegal tech transfer. It also means, too, that their little Temu Dorito 6th gen fighter is a propaganda tool, which is exactly what I've been telling you guys for over a year. But meanwhile, we have got XBAT, we've got the NGAD, we've got Anduril's autonomous YF with better chips and finally reducing costs and building quicker. So the Chinese cannot build a chip smaller than 7 nanometers, but the United States is making them at 3 nanometers. So that should tell you a lot about their 6th gen fighter claims. Or really, it looks more like a long range bomber. But this also makes what NVIDIA's Jensen Huang said today sort of dumb, in my opinion. He said that China will beat us in artificial intelligence. But to me, if you can't get parity, then that'll be really fucking hard. The one thing I will say that they do better than the United States is they deregulate better than the United States. And that's because they want more people working on it because they know that they have to play catch up. So again, I'll say, like, why should you guys care? Because you're probably like, Brandon, cool, what's the point? You're always talking about China. This is the thing that you rail on and on and on about. The point is decoupling is good for the United States. It will be painful at first, and we're going through those growing pains, but this is exactly what the United States needs. China is a leech in a lot of different ways right? I think a lot of you guys know we've laid them out on other episodes before. And them doing this is sort of a tacit admission that they know their days of leeching are coming to an end, which I find to be a big win for Trump here, Scott Bessent and all these other guys, Howard Lutnick, that are out here doing business with them day to day. But Trump wants American businesses to be independent, and he's getting that, hence China's reaction here. And I've seen some people say that this is like Xi's way of trying to play a hardball back to the United States by closing up chip makers outside of China. So, you know, you can't have foreign chips in their parts and all these other things. And maybe, I guess you could say maybe it could be, but to me, they wouldn't pull this punch if they knew it wasn't plausible that this was going to happen anyway, that the United States is done with letting them leech. So I don't think this is going to get some sort of overreaction from Donald Trump, frankly. But the long term and short term, right? America keeps the chip high ground, the AI high ground, and the supply chain high ground, which is really important. We've outlined this for you guys a lot over the past year about how much the United States has brain drained Taiwan, places like Arizona, Colorado, California, building these chips. And doing so here in the United States with American workers. China is going to face a bunch of bottlenecks and tech lag doing this. So they know this is going to be painful, but they're doing it anyway, which just shows you they know that the cost benefit analysis on this is that it's better to do it than rely on the United States for tech transfer and tech theft. Okay, now that somebody is in there who isn't putting up with it, but also China lacks a lot of capital because of its housing market debt. And they are 100% going to need a lot of capital to try to achieve parity here, even with, you know, the military civil fusion that they have going on. But they may achieve total autonomy over the next several years. But to me, that's just like your little brother learning how to build Legos without you. It still looks like shit, even if he doesn't need your help pushing them together anymore, right? So parity is a long ways off, in my opinion. I would say that, but those 10 to 15 years I mentioned at the top of this are also 10 to 15 years of American innovation as well, right? So I don't know, Chris, that's my take on China decoupling from the United States, supply chain wise, tech wise, with these chips. Obviously, is to achieve total autonomy and the hope that they may achieve parity one day. But I would like to get your take on this.
Yeah, I think that you absolutely nailed it. I think this is overall a good thing. I think that it's absolutely hilarious that the trope of the Asian kid in class is that he's the smartest and the best at math. But what China has traditionally always done is just copied everybody else's homework around the world. You know, it's basically their modus operandi. But yeah, the math. I do think that this is a very good thing, though, and this is definitely going to set them back. And I do think that this has also been driven by the tariff wars. Like, they're looking at this whole situation and they're going, we can't afford for Trump to interrupt our supply chains again. Remember, they're a producing economy. We're a consuming economy. And because we are their number one customer, that gives us economically the upper hand, because it's like they produce the stuff, but hey, we get to decide whether or not we want to buy it or not. And that automatically puts us, as like I said, as the customer at an advantage. Go ahead and jump in, man.
I was just going to say, if I could make like an important distinction here, right?
Yeah.
Like, two things. China is the world's number one importer of energy products and energy. Okay. That is a very bad position for the Chinese to be in. And they are taking some measures to get around that. But the statement you made, there's a distinction to be drawn here about the United States being their number one customer. If you look at the United States and what we buy from the Chinese and the money we spend and the buying power the United States has, we are number one. But China does now, over the past year, do more business with ASEAN countries than they do anywhere else. So when you talk about production, you have to talk about the means of production, and you have to talk about what that looks like on the supply chain. So you have a product beginning, you have the intermediary pieces of that product, and then the final product, right? These ASEAN countries that do business with China, they do make shit that they import and export to and from one another. China uses those countries essentially as a rotating carousel to push money through a lot, but they make intermediary products, not final finished products that the Chinese need people to buy. So there's a very big distinction here. And that's a lot of fucking money that the Chinese aren't going to have. And they have way more debt to capital than they have than the United States does. And this goal they have of achieving chip autonomy on the mainland and not on Taiwan is going to require that capital, and they're not going to get it from doing business in intermediary products with the ASEAN alliance that they have. So they're in a lot of trouble, quite frankly, which is why I gave them this 10 to 15 year timeline on autonomy with this, because they have a lot of other economic instability and issues they're going to have to overcome. This whole like Evergrande and Country Garden issue that they have gotten themselves in serious shit with is going to haunt them forever. Like this is not something that's going away. Like an entire generation, first off, of Chinese 18 to 40-year-olds are completely and totally unemployed, way more than the United States. And then you have all of these people who gave all of this money to local governments and local realtors who were handpicked by the CCP to purchase land and build on it to up the value property on that land with the intention of people moving in, and then nobody ever moved in. And it's just this massive money recycling business where the CCP funnels money to a local government, that local government funnels money to a hand-picked realtor who develops land to increase the land property, and then all that money goes right back in to the local government, and then all that money goes right back to the CCP. So it's this massive stupid fucking cycle that they have going on. That's not a tenable process for economic longevity in any way, shape, or form. So there's a lot of issues that they've got. They need Europe to buy their EV products and all their other alternative energy source products that they've overproduced on the off chance that people would be to overpurchase, which isn't what's happening. So there's a lot of issues at play here. But anyway, this is their real first like move to decouple completely hardcore, because they need chips at the level that the United States can make.
Absolutely
can make.
And I think it's worth like reminding people again how United States foreign policy is enacted, right? And it's kind of a four-spoke fork, right? And so we remember it through DIME, right? So you have your diplomacy, your intelligence, your military, and your economic means. And so through those four avenues, that's how we influence foreign policy with other countries around the world. And what I think has been so brilliant is that everybody, if you go back about 18 months, everybody was talking about the military problem of Taiwan. And how are we going to solve this military problem of Taiwan? And is China going to invade Taiwan and so on and so forth, right? But what Donald Trump has been able to do here through his foreign policy, I think has been very, very smart. And this has all been through diplomatic and economic means. He's basically rendered China incapable of militarily doing anything that they want to do, at least as far as Taiwan is concerned, right? And then you layer on top of that their demographic problem of their aging population, which is getting ready to fall off at a huge rate here very soon because of their one-child policy. You layer on top of that their military problems because of it being a communistic military, that it's not, people aren't promoted on merit or knowledge or capability. They're only promoted on their ability their allegiance, proper allegiance to the CCP. They've put themselves in this doom loop, in this downward spiral. And you're absolutely correct. And what I see here, just to back you up, are absolute markers that it is working, that Donald Trump's foreign policy, at least as far as China is concerned, is working. And this is one of the good things that I think is coming out of his administration.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
Yeah. Words to live by.
Thank you for the follow. Getting her done. I like
getting her
Not just
done.
Get her done. Get her done.
I like it. Lots of new follows tonight. Welcome into the Fire Fam, guys. Hey, now's a good time to let you know we do have a Discord server, and you're going to see our chat bot, affectionately dubbed Lauren Bobot. If you guys follow that link, it'll take you over to the Discord server. Jump down in there, because when we get done, I'm going to take all of the headlines that we utilize throughout the entire show. I drop them down in the Discord server. There's a channel down there for you so that you can read through the articles yourselves. And that's us showing you our homework so that you can see that we're not full of shit. We're not hiding things from you. We're being as completely transparent as we can. We show you all of the resources that we use. So there you go. There's that. And let's come up for just a little bit of air. Brandon, this next video, I think, is one of the unfortunate people that had their SNAP benefits removed, trying to make sure they were able to get to one of those mass robbery events that was supposed to happen on November 3rd. So let's check in on her and see how she did here.
Is it supposed to sway like that?
You're okay, ma'am. Just keep still. We're almost over the stairs.
Hold on, watch out! Whoa, floor's going. You all right?
Apparently it didn't go very well.
That's got to be Sora, right?
I don't think she's going to be robbing a Walmart anytime soon. Guys, don't get too mad. That was an AI video. That was not an actual real person. That was
Sora. Had to be,
yeah. We're not making fun of an actual real person.
Coles Walker says AI messed up on the whole. They did.
They did.
Yeah. That's because the AI has never actually seen a 600-pound woman go through a floor before, you know?
Yeah, it had to invent physics that don't exist to make it happen. All right. Well, guys, we're going to head straight back over to ground news for this one. And this story is a little bit concerning to me, but it looks like this. Over half of Americans expect a political candidate will be assassinated within 5 years, a new survey shows. So the bullet points on this one were: on Monday, a Politico and Public First poll of 2,051 American adults conducted October 18th through the 21st found the majority expect a political candidate will be assassinated within 5 years. Analysts point to deep partisanship, economic dispossession, online conspiracy theories, poor mental health infrastructure, and armed militias injecting violence, observers note. Poll details show expectation of an assassination is nearly identical across partisan lines. 53% of 2024 Kamala Harris voters and 55% of Donald Trump voters, with 24% of respondents saying violence is sometimes justified. So nearly a quarter of them, so nearly half on both sides, over half on both sides of the political spectrum are saying they expect it to happen. And then a quarter of them are saying, and it's justified when it happens. That is highly concerning. The mood, to say it lightly, the mood across the country is marked by profound bipartisan anxiety. That's one way to say it, as most Democrats and Republicans agree the American public expects political violence to escalate in the coming years. Documented increases since 2016 indicate nearly 3 times as many partisan attacks and at least 300 political violence cases between January 6th and the 2024 election, analysts say. Brandon, do you have anything you want to say before I jump into this? Because I have a few points.
No, the only thing I was going to say really on this is that I think it's funny that people forget about American political violence. Like when it happens, there's always this conversation about how it's like, oh man, political violence is on the rise, or it's a surge of American political violence. But like at the end of the day, like American political violence has been going on forever. Like that is the American norm. You know, it's not an emerging pathology to say that political violence is new, right? It's like an enduring feature of the United States, right? So from like the Revolution, Bleeding Kansas, labor strikes, assassinations on presidents, obviously domestic terrorism in the United States, like political violence in the United States, like being normalized. I just sort of like rebuke that statement that a lot of people say. It's something that's been a feature here for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that is, I don't know that, I guess if you looked at it objectively on its face to say, is it objectively good or bad thing to say that it's been here for a long time. But it is true. And to look at history and say that out loud, that American political violence is a feature, I think is the most accurate way of talking about political violence in the United States.
No, I'm glad that you brought it up, because you're absolutely right. It is the rule, not the exception, right? Because there were lawmakers in New York that were killed during the process of trying to ratify the Constitution. when we were trying to ratify the Constitution out from underneath the Articles of Confederation. So you're absolutely right. It goes all the way back to the beginning. And I appreciate what you said there for a little bit of perspective, because it is important from time to time to take a step back, take a wider look at things and go, it's not worse than it's ever been, right? Like, no, this is just our generation and our fight. And to that point, I think that what a lot of people are seeing is that you and I got to grow up during a relative period of peace in the United States that we took for absolute granted. But it was the way that it was when we were kids coming out of the Cold War and then through the 90s and the early 2000s. And we got lulled into a false sense of security that this is the way of the world. It was not. We were very fortunate to grow up in a relative period of peace. And kind of a break, a little bit of a respite until 2001, and then back into it.
Reagan got shot, like
yeah,
which wasn't. I mean, for me anyway, right? Wasn't that long or that short of a time between when that happened and when I was born. Like I wasn't alive, nor do I remember that. But yeah, I mean that happened. Same decade I was born,
No, 100%. I think the low-hanging fruit on this is to try to point out like, oh, political violence has been completely normalized now. It is becoming normalized, and that is a huge problem. As the political divide becomes deeper, and as blue cities are doubling down on socialism and going bluer, and red states are moving redder, and people are fleeing blue cities to go out into rural areas, right? Trying to escape these policies. The political divide is only going to become worse. I think these are all poor markers, and I think we're all accurately seeing the trend of what's happening here and the direction that it goes, right? I said the other day that if you're to be a responsible citizen, it is necessary that you are also a student of history, and a lot of people just aren't anymore, right? Which is why I always appreciate your you providing historical context to all of these things. But to me, I think that the crux of this and what stuck out to me was that it didn't say that over half of Americans expect a political assassination attempt, right? It said that candidates will be assassinated. So to me, I think that one of the deeper things that's going on here is that on top of political violence being normalized, I think that whether or not that they're able to articulate the people that were polled here, whether or not they're able to articulate this or not, I think that what they're also admitting to is the fact that trust in the competency of our institutions, specifically here, law enforcement and our security apparatus in the United States, like the Secret Service, is cratering at the same time that political violence is being normalized. And so it's like what these individuals getting polled are admitting to, right, is that not only is it normal and it's going to be attempted, but the FBI and the Secret Service are going to be incapable of stopping it. Because look at what happened to Donald Trump. Look what happened to Charlie Kirk. Look what happened.
You can just get on X and you say you got the guy in custody and have to do a tweet 20 minutes later saying you don't.
Dude, absolutely. And this is where criticism of the current administration is absolutely warranted. It is absolutely deserved. And we all saw sloped roofs after the Trump assassination attempt. Right. We all saw the overweight white chick not be able to holster her weapon as they were trying to get Donald Trump off the X. Right. Like we all saw it. It was out there for. Dude, it was out there for everybody to see. And so to me, that is one of the more concerning things that's going on here. And there's a lot of factors that play into it. There's the DEI policies that have gotten us here to where a lot of our law enforcement is overweight and incompetent, right? The fall of or just disregard of meritocracy in general, right? In favor of equity. One of the reasons that I absolutely love the fact that Papa Pete, Sec War goes in, brings all of the general level officers to him and goes, we are going back to standards. Yeah. You all will take a PT test. Was
controversial.
That's what I'm saying. And so I think I'm really proud of the Department of War in this moment, because it is putting our best foot forward and starting to lead the way back to those policies, to meritocracy, and it will change quickly. You will see the Department of War change overnight, but it has the ability to do it because of being a top-down, command-driven organization. Right. But that's the point that I wanted to make of this is like, yeah, political violence is being normalized. That's a terrible thing. And I want to be able to take a step back from it. But also trust in the competency of our institutions is an absolute all-time low. And I think we can fix that problem faster than the political divide. And I think it will go a long way in restoring faith in the government of the United States, faith in the systems of the United States by starting there.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point to make. And the other thing too, and I was just going to bring up a comment from the chat, is that social media, I think, has, I know has a lot to do with what H.R. Shaw in the chat said about the desensitization of people and political violence. And I don't know if you saw when I put his comment up, he said they said that they feel like desensitization is a better word than normalization. And I think that's actually a great articulation because people are becoming desensitized not only to that, but to a lot of things. And this is something that people have never had to compete with before, is the constant influx of information, the crisis fatigue. Most people feel that's a real phrase, crisis fatigue, right?
Yeah.
The 24/7 news cycle keeps people almost in a fight or flight panic mode all the time, especially if you spend a lot of your day reading news or watching the news. Everything is always an emergency. That's why people are so quick to just brain dump things as they happen. You know, it's like Aaron was talking about on Instagram the other day, was talking about the whole Matthew Livelsberger thing that happened where he blew himself up at the beginning of the year. That makes no sense. Why did a Green Beret who should know how to blow a fucking car up do it in a piss poor manner, claim all this other shit, right? It doesn't make any sense, but that's been memory hold completely and totally. We've got no real answers on that either, right? So there's all of these factors at play. Some of them we've never had to deal with before as a society. You know, the idea of a newspaper or runners, right? Those are really old. But, you know, the invention of radio, the invention of television, all of these things reaching people en masse in a way that's never been possible before. And then now with the advent of the internet and then this fucking thing, right? It is a constant crisis fatigue, panic, fight or flight mode that people feel this. And so they have come to expect nothing but chaos because that's all they see in our Fed 24/7. You know, and that's a byproduct actually of 9/11 is the 24-hour news cycle. If people don't realize that. So, yeah, it's not how it used to be. You know, the evening news was the evening news. You guys in the chat remember, but that's it, man. That's all I got to say on that, dude. I think that your point is a salient one, that the fixing of the institutional rot, I guess, is a quicker fix than desensitizing people. You know, that isn't something that's going to happen naturally.
Well, those problems that you talked about, I think, are generationally set in at this point. So that ship is going to turn slowly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, those are the headlines that we have for you guys tonight. Like I said, I'm going to drop them all in the Discord server as soon as we're done with the show tonight. So you guys can go in, you can read all of the articles that are aggregated from both those stories to see it from all of the different viewpoints of the different news sources that wrote about them. And like I said, that's us showing you guys our homework so that you can go in, you can educate yourself on it because problems are not that simple. They are often nuanced and they require some critical thinking so that you can come up with your own educated opinion.
What's up, point up?
On what you believe. But guys, that does mean that it's time to come up for just a little bit of air before we hit the no-knock breakdown. And you know what I realized that I just did?
You didn't do any of the cutaways?
I didn't do any of the cutaways. Like we have this great cutaway. It's called Hit the Headlines, and it was supposed to look like this.
Mr. President, it's time to hit the headlines.
You could tell we haven't done this in 2 weeks.
You can't let me blow
Not
through
gonna lie to
that.
you, my brain was like something's
off.
Yeah.
Exactly. Me too. I was like, wait a
There's a
second.
disturbance in the force. I don't know what it is.
We got it in there. But anyway, here's your palate cleanser, guys, before we move on to the no-knock breakdown.
It's 52 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. If you're not picking up a drive-through PSL en route to an orchard and getting lost in a corn maze in your cider donut crumb riddled chunky sweater, what are you even doing with your life?
Out there, those of you out there, you know who you are.
Pumpkining is a lifestyle. You know?
Are you a PSL guy?
I do like PSLs. I haven't had one in years though. I don't need 60 grams of sugar.
Yeah, that's the bigger problem in it for sure. You are right though.
like
there's a whole lifestyle built around
anyway.
that. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it was John Adams said that he drank 2 tankers of hard apple cider every morning or something like that.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he was all about it, dude. But then again, him and Abigail, they also raised apples on their property, and so it's like they made it.
Working with what you got where you're at, you know what I mean?
100p, dude. All right, so guys, it does be time for the no knock breakdown, and I have only been challenged on this one time, but I am absolutely in this cutaway. So if you can find me, screenshot me, and you send it to me, DM me on Discord, which I'm under at Common Freaking Sense. On there, I will send you a shirt from our store in your size and color. So here you go. It's time for the no knock breakdown. We got a police encounter tonight. I'm excited about this one.
Ooh.
Yes, police encounters and tactical videos. Tonight, I think we're going to New Orleans, if I do remember correctly. And Brandon, just to kind of drop you into the context of this one, cop was called out to a burglary. And so he shows up on scene. He immediately identifies the suspect, leaving the scene, matching the description. Pursuit ensues, and then you'll see what happens after that. So here you guys go. By the way, YouTube bros, YouTube does not like it when we show any type of violence on the show.
Anyway, so.
No, there's one Giga Chad hanging out, but we can't afford the strikes.
The tab I have open.
We can't afford the strikes or anything over there. So hey, if you were hanging out on YouTube, thank you guys so much. But time for you guys to, if you really want to hang out with us for the rest of the night, you're gonna have to jump over and see us over on Rumble. So